I keep saying it, but like every week he says something more hard. He's like, "Hey, send some troops to Ukraine." I don't know. And
I don't know if I was
down.
France. The last couple have gone pretty for France. If I was France, I'd be like, "Hey, we got to do something."
They did okay in one.
Really.
They're eager to make up for their record in two because like World War II was like that was a 4-0 sweep in a 7-game.
They got posterized. They got posterized. They're that guy with Jordan's junk in their ear.
Yeah, they are.
But it's Hitler's junk.
Yeah. Now, I would be worried if I was
Larry Bird coming in.
If I was Poland or France, I'd be like, this is coming. Like you don't want that again.
I went to Wikipedia to like look at France's military history. And I tried to scroll to the bottom like a UFC fighter and look for the grid, like the win-loss. It's not there. It's all in paragraph form.
Wait, you're telling me war's more complex?
I just wanted W's and L's, maybe judge scores. I don't know.
I'm sure that exists somewhere.
Oh yeah,
I would imagine they got a very high win.
France would have a very high win rate. They were fucking warmongers back in the day.
They have a wildly impressive military history. It's just when you lose in the finals, recently.
Hang on a minute.
There's a wicked
That's
story.
That's like saying the Bulls have like a great championship like pedigree, but we're just talking about the Jordan era. It's almost not fair to say that France is great because they had Napoleon, like the greatest military leader of all time, like just ran.
He still lost,
like for hundreds.
He still lost.
Eventually, he lost twice.
Before Napoleon, they had leaders in winning wars.
But see, he's like the GSP of fucking war of emperors, right?
But he also
lost once or twice. But
his losses were massive though. Like he trying to invade Russia and like losing half of the fucking army in the winter. That's a big fucking loss, man.
You know how big that army was? That was like an 800,000 man army. They got whittled down to 50,000.
That's a lot of fucking loss.
Dude, Russia's not a place you want to go in winter. Seems like war goes badly when you're like, hey, let's go into this tundra wasteland that's freezing and fight in like fucking January.
Have you ever heard the story of Napoleon apparently had a cavalry assault on ships? So like there was like a frozen like lake or something, and a navy was stuck inside the frozen lake, and it's the only recorded time in history where they cavalry charge ships. It's like,
can you imagine being the sailor who was like waking up to empty his piss bucket and a fucking mounted Frenchman comes charging by and hits you with a fucking lance?
It was the Dutch, and the Dutch have used their influence to bury that because you can't come back from losing a naval battle to guys on horseback.
No, you can't.
Embarrassing.
What were they riding? Seahorses? Like you got conquered by fucking Aquaman. You fucking stupid Dutch cunts.
Well, let's see what happened here. The capture of the Dutch fleet at Dan Helden on the night of January 23rd, 1795 presents a rare occurrence of an interaction between warships and cavalry in which a French Revolutionary Hussar regiment came close to a Dutch fleet frozen at anchor at Nieuwediep or some shit, just east of the town of Dan Helder. After some of the Hussars had approached across the frozen Nieuwediep, the French cavalry negotiated that all 14 Dutch warships would remain at anchor. The capture of ship by horsemen is an extremely rare feat in military history. No shit.
It feels like a one-off, like we call it extremely rare, but I feel like that's got to be a one-off.
And you can't even go down like master and commander style gloriously. Just you're looking down at the people you're surrendering to as they neigh. That would be so embarrassing. Well, good for the French.
Yeah, I got all sorts of scary stuff. I don't know. I don't know much about smoke grenades. Like spear guns.
I think
that would be cool. Getting into spear guns.
Oh, wait.
Spear guns.
Kyle, have you bought your sword yet?
No, I have been looking at swords.
Kyle's gonna be a sword guy now.
I'm a sword guy.
Sword guy.
First of all, it's swordsman. Let's get this straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna become like
you'll make your way there. You're a student of the blade first and foremost.
Okay.
You're gonna become like a reformed virgin, like just stop having sex and wear
Yeah.
See, that's the reaction that I'm not looking for. That is what has stayed
would you
my
like fear?
hand.
Is
You
that
buy it
what
on Amazon. People bought this also enjoy fedoras.
No, it'd be like Japanese kimonos and butt plugs or something that bought katanas.
So what
I
kind
don't-
of
he's
sword are
gonna-
you trying to get? What kind of sword are we going for?
So that's the thing. I don't want any weeaboo shit. I don't have any Japanese heritage, any Asian heritage, not even on that side of the planet. There's no sense in me getting.
So you should get a spear from your homeland of Africa.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I could do that, I suppose, but that's only 0.06% of my heritage. I think I'd probably go with. I've looked at the Viking straight swords. I've looked at some Celtic swords. I've looked at some Confederate cavalry swords. It's sort of
They're pretty
curved,
good.
and it's got the
Ooh.
handguard.
Like a
And
saber.
I've looked
As
at
cool as
the
the gladius.
Roman,
Look at
and I've
those.
looked at the Roman gladiuses,
Yeah.
which are also pretty cool. Those often come with a very ornate sheath.
Mhm.
I'd go
at these-
Warhammer. Like a Warhammer, I reckon.
You look like a Warhammer guy, actually. Slash.
I feel like that,
if you were to
right.
go into combat, I could see you wielding a hammer.
Yeah,
I feel like
you're
I
a
want
natural
hammer.
Warhammer.
Yeah, I
wielder.
love Warhammer. Yeah. No, we
Maybe-
or maybe
Or maybe
like
an axe in each hand,
yeah,
Yeah,
or like
like a
mace.
medium-sized one, like a short
Like-
axe.
I wonder
like
what I'd be. I feel like I'm an archer.
Archer?
I feel
You
like
are
you're
an archer.
too
You've got
muscular
that
for an
big-
archer.
No, he's got that broad upper body. He's going to be
Yeah.
pulling them back and letting them go. Rob?
Those longbows are fucking
You know what
hard to
movie
pull
that's
back.
from?
No,
Oh shit!
I don't know. A longbow that would be neat.
Yeah.
Disney
I
I've
actually
I've heard they're hard to use though. Like very, very, very hard to pull back. Like you need to practice a lot to get it pulled back
Need to
to
get
So
fit
those
for
guys,
it.
you're
so
strong. You
it's
just pump
they're like a
through it.
100-pound draw, and obviously there's no in a compound bow. There's a lot of let off, so you're only pulling the weight rating for a brief period, and then the pulleys turn over, and now you're holding back far less. And the better the bow, the less you're holding back percentage wise. You might be holding 70%, 80%, 90%, like weight less and less and less. You'll actually be holding back of the pull weight. But I always shot when I was a kid, I shot 60 pounds. And when I was a man grown, I shot 70. And my dad always shot 70. And that's often what compound bows top out at. And it ain't that hard to pull back if you're like an active, regular sized man. Like if you're a 5'9" average guy who works out maybe once a week, you could absolutely pull back a 70-pound draw. You know, you're pushing with one hand and pulling with the other.
Yeah,
So 100 isn't that much harder.
looks like 105 pounds is for a standard
Yeah.
6'6" English self-U longbow.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I guess you had to be
I
pretty
feel like
strong.
as a longbow with no counterlever system, that would be hard.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
It's-
that would be difficult.
So they're not holding it back though. They're pulling them back and letting them go. Literally, they're
Right.
almost in one shot. They're never holding and aiming like it's a rifle. Every motion is one sort of pull it back and let it go. I don't know if they actually did that sort of draw loose. I don't know if they ever
Yeah.
did that.
I wonder
where
if they
everybody
aimed
holds
it
them back
at a
and-
target.
No, I
Like, do
don't.
they
'Cause-
practice in one motion?
Yeah, no. Apparently, the way to shoot most accurately is once it hits a certain point, then you fire. Because the Olympic ones have like a little clicker, and it's like on top of the arrow. And when it goes past when the arrow pulls out, it clicks down, and the clicking sound is that's when you fire. Apparently, like when you get to the perfect tension. That's like that's what I've seen for like the accuracy wise.
That would make it would be hard to just hold 110-pound draw weight accurately, like because you imagine you're fighting in a battle, you're shooting a lot more than one arrow.
So
Oh yeah.
the only like I've watched a bunch of stuff about the Battle of Agincourt, where there was a lot of English archers, and they kind of made the difference. It was when the French knights charged down the muddy field and get bogged down, and the English archers just went at them and rained down. I don't know that they aimed right at targets. I don't think you want your archers so close to a target that they can aim straight at them. I think it's always that big arcing, sort of aim it up so you can hit the guys 175 yards away.
That was that was what made them so strong, wasn't it? That they had like such long range.
They definitely
Yeah,
have more
that was-
range than the crossbows. We've talked before about like longbows and crossbows and how the crossbow was considered this like sort of low class is the wrong word. Less honorable
Low skill.
weapon.
Yeah.
Less
But I think
honorable weapon.
Like
Yeah, less
crossbows had like high velocity and were able to pierce like plate armor though. Was the point of them, I think.
Any idiot can operate
and you
a
can just
crossbow. Was
hand
the
it
main
to someone.
point. You
and
had to
be
train
like, "Point this."
the archers a lot, but you could just hand that crossbow to somebody and do their thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sold that Woody would be a longbow guy.
No,
I'm
yeah.
100% sold that Slush is either a double-sided broad axe guy
Mhm.
I'll go with that.
or a
Double axes, the little ones.
warhammer guy.
That could go.
I was thinking either that or like Gimli's axe in Lord of the Rings, where it's got
the little
Yeah.
ones or the big boy.
the big boy.
Okay,
And so
I
I
like
like
these
the big
little
boy.
ones.
I see Slush as like a
Also,
big
that's
boy or a
versatile
hammer
as well.
wielder.
If you get a good enough one of that, and you don't mind.
Oh,
sort of
I got it.
putting work-
Shillelagh.
Chop
No,
wood.
get yourself a
Shillelagh.
good fucking.
No, that's so
Zach,
lame.
can you pull up the picture of the shillelagh from Gangs of New York?
Oh yeah.
Shillelagh, is that a musical instrument? What is that?
Close.
what
It's an
Irish people
Irish
use.
musical instrument. It's a percussion.
to beat people.
Wait,
after
are
winning
you pulling my leg?
Well, I'm sort of making a joke without pulling your leg. I'm saying it's a percussion
okay.
instrument because they whack people in the head.
okay.
It's a cudgel or
It's,
an impact
what's it
weapon. It's a
called?
big
Kinetic
fucking
force.
heavy stick.
Kinetic energy transfer device.
Yeah, in
That's-
Gangs of New York, you might remember the
Hmm.
scene where at the beginning they're going to have the big fight. All the gang's going to fight, and Leonardo DiCaprio's father, Liam Neeson's character, goes and he tries to recruit the big Irish brute guy, and he's like offering to pay him so many copper coins per scratch on his shillelagh, and he pulls it out, and it's he's got like you can't really see it because of the quality, but he's got tons of etching marks for every man he's killed on this thing.
Oh
Yeah,
boy!
it's good to see.
Yeah,
Wow, that
There you go.
it's
It's
the
pretty much
shillelagh.
it's pretty much a golf club.
yeah.
It is.
Solid
You
on the end.
fuck somebody
Yeah.
up.
See, I don't
But
think the golf club. I think
Sounds cool.
Golf
I
club
think the
is
golf club's
shit
a-
weapon.
it's a shit weapon. You're absolutely right. That
Shit
shaft
weapon.
is so fragile.
Oh man, I've
You get one swing.
shattered drivers
one
just like
swing.
hitting the ball hard enough. Like
Even a fiberglass or like I guess it's graphite. I had a graphite driver.
graphite.
Like
Yeah.
we just went and bought some like random shit to dry balls with.
Yeah.
And those things are tough. Like now that I think about it, but the thing is,
You wouldn't
They-
attack someone with a driver anyway. You'd use an iron.
but those
They're
have
not
those
very
usually the
strong.
metal. Are there? I'm sure there's graphite.
there is graphite irons,
Irons.
but I think they're just as
I have
easy to
metal
break.
irons. My dad gave me old pings from like
Yeah.
the 90s or
Only
something that they're made
really
of metal.
old people use graphite irons because they're more flexible, so they
Okay.
can get more speed.
I had a
So,
whole bunch of I had a whole set of Callaways, and I'm gonna tell you, like you break that thing right over somebody, and then they beat you up for trying. That's the fear. Here's the thing:
Unless
if you're gonna
unless you got
if
it
you're
in the
bringing a
head
weapon-
with the actual iron bit.
if you're
like-
gonna
Yeah,
bring a
that's what
weapon
it is.
into the combat arena, just know that human nature is that they have seen this as an escalation and permission for them to also escalate. So you better
Yeah.
get the shit done. If
Yeah.
you show up with your 9-iron, take a swing, he takes a step forward and the thing hits his shoulder and breaks on his shoulder. Best believe he might take that shaft and stab your ass with it instead of just beating you up like what would have normally happened. Like I ain't swinging a golf club at somebody. If I'm in that scene from Pulp Fiction where Bruce Willis is looking up at the pawn shop wall at the weaponry to take down to the fuck dungeon, that golf club is on the bottom of my list. I'd much rather have a hammer. Give me a hammer.
What
just
does
a
he-
regular
what does he
claw
take?
hammer. He takes a katana.
Katana would be above. Like I think that like I had someone say this to me once. He was like one of my dad's mates who rolled with some fucking angry motherfuckers, and he said you only carry the weapon that you're willing to do the time for. And he said a hammer's really good because you don't have to kill someone with that. A sword, you hit someone in the leg, very highly likely that if you hit them hard enough in the leg and they're going to bleed out. But
Yeah.
you hit someone in the leg with a hammer, then they're not gonna die. That's still gonna be in a lot
and you're
of
gonna
pain.
get your
Makes sense.
money.
But if you go for the head with a hammer,
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
still kill them. You can still kill them with a hammer if you really want to. So
I don't see Slush as a shillelagh guy. I see him as a
No.
war axe guy or a war hammer guy.
I'll go hammer.
Woody, I'm growing on Woody as a longbow guy.
Zach,
I
would you
like
show us
that.
an image of Gul Maraz? Gul Maraz.
Kyle, I don't know where I'm trying to peg you. Maybe just a swordsman.
Dude,
Just
I
Officer.
what I would honestly want is like if I actually had if you're gonna make me go fight in a gladiatorial arena, I would want
Okay.
a sword, like a short sword that's one-handed, and I would want a shield. Like I would want a teardrop shield, that start.
I believe they were called Murmillo, right?
Thank you.
Murmillo. Oh, the teardrop.
Things that are wild.
So
teardrop stuff.
Because I want to be able to lower it. Because if he swipes at my legs, I want to be able to lower it all the way to the ground, like stab it into the ground to like check a leg kick. Basically, that's Gol Mirage. That is the Warhammer. Basically, that is what. But Warhammer is named after this item. The whole.
I would go that. I would run that.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. It's also imbued with the soul of some sort of ancient, entity, and it's basically sentient.
Yeah, well, obviously, we want a hammer you can talk to.
At least that's the way I remember
when you're tired of killing.
So you would want to be like this guy, Kyle.
Got
this Murmillo picture, which you'd need you need to have a good body to pull this off.
Oh no. So I'm talking about like the shield that at the top, it's shaped like a teardrop, and the top is the fat part, and then at the bottom it becomes a point. Like it's fat at the top and skinny at the bottom. The shield is, and I would want a longer sword than that.
A kite shield.
I'm gonna have to be so close to that guy to make this sword do business. I want like 8 more inches.
Yeah, we all do. We're racing to that one. Look at that. Tell me this isn't slush.
That's
this is slush.
So what you have there is a what are those fucking called? It's a
angry. It's
called a dwarf.
It's the unit name. This is a specific kind of unit because it's not wearing armor. It's the Slayer. It's a Slayer.
Yeah,
that is a Slayer. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like a shield. Like going back to paintball. When we actually did the paintball thing, we made a shield, and the idea was that I would get the shield, being that I was getting married, and then everyone was going to shoot me at some stage. And we made this wooden shield, and we were fucking around with it afterwards, and we're all drunk. And my friend was holding onto it and had it on his arm, and he held it up, and I grabbed it and just sort of like turned it, and he was just like. And because he's like, we're not trained to obviously operate a shield or strong enough to stop someone from just grabbing it and turning it, and your arm just sort of being like bar locked inside it. So I feel like a shield would probably fuck me more than it would help me.
Yeah,
this is my shit right here. This right here.
Is it Secutor? Is that what you?
This is exactly what I would want to rock. Like if I this is literally the whole fucking like everything he's got on. I love. He needs gloves. He needs fucking gloves, but otherwise, this is so perfect.
With carbon fiber knuckles.
I want some. I want mail. I want my fingers. My biggest fear, and it's because in all the sword fights I've ever had, I got my knuckles wrapped a lot. Like it happened a lot. Like we would have fights with PVC pipe, or we had these wooden dowels that were I don't know, 1/4 inch or maybe 3/8. And we would have like some. I always wanted to have a real sword fight of some kind. If there had been Kimpo or whatever it's called, that sword karate martial art, Kendo, thank you. I would have done anything to do that as a kid. Instead, I was in bullshit karate. But we made our own way, and I was always getting hit like in my forearms and my hands. Like, and if it was a blade, I'd be crippled. I wouldn't be able to
need a hand guard, a sword with like a hand guard.
Yeah, whenever I see those old timey swords that have the full on, like your hands like in like a sphere of protection,
so like a rapier or something.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the rapiers have really ornate ones too that are beautiful.
What about like those big gloves that look like big like lobster claws? We have some.
Oh yeah. Okay, those are for lancing though. I think for like the mounted guys. Yeah. Those they have really. That's another thing that I guess happens now in modern days. It's got to be like a rich guy sport, huh? Like it's that's what. All right. So the guys who have class and money, they do horse dancing, and the guys who are rednecks and have money, they're like, I want to do a little lance. They're on the horses lancing.
I want to get into jousting.
Jousting.
Yeah.
Have you seen modern day jousting?
I have.
No.
I watch.
Oh my god!
It's more brutal than it shows in television. You're like, oh, I kind of get it now. That's a lot of inertia.
How much more
but so they make the joust to be weak, right?
They make it to break, but you can like people died doing that.
They always made so even in the medieval tournaments, like the ones we watch in Game of Thrones, those are also made to do that. They're the blunted weak ones, but they deliver like such an incredible amount of force. They dehorse each other full gallop, because each horse is going, call it 30 miles per hour. We've got all of that, and then they're aiming for each other's fucking upper body, trying to turn them, so they dehorse them, and they hit hard as fuck. It's fun to watch.
How much would a horse cost? Like,
what kind of horse, though? That's the thing. Like,
what kind of horse would you?
A good one.
What kind of horse would you use for something like that? Like, because you gotta think like, so it's not a racehorse, so you don't want to. It's similar to a destruction derby in a way. You don't want a Ferrari in a destruction derby, so you're not getting like a fucking Kentucky Derby winning filly.
Hear me out, Clydesdale.
You just want a shit horse,
The horse me up, my fucking Clydesdale.
That's a specially trained jousting horse. They're not just grabbing some fucking pony off the ranch or whatever.
Some nag.
That's got to be an unbelievably stressful job for a horse.
Yeah,
I think they like it. I think they enjoy going into battle and doing.
How much would it cost? You reckon? How much should a horse
to be a jouster and like roll out every weekend? Yeah. Probably about the same as it costs for every guy that we used to go to the drag race.
It's the hospital bills that's going to do you in.
It like everybody, all those hobbies are similar prices, honestly. If you're a hobbyist, if you drive a race car, I know that you've got a $30,000 or $40,000 car and you're spending several $1,000s a weekend, and you go out a couple weekends a month, and it gets expensive. But the horse is the same fucking way.
How much do you think a Clydesdale costs?
Just a regular old Clydesdale?
Yep. Garden variety.
$5,000.
Whoa. Okay, more guesses?
I'm going to say $20,000.
I don't know.
1 to 5,000. Although you're not wrong, because an award-winning Clydesdale is 20 grand.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, I thought I could have sworn you said what is an award-winning Clydesdale?
Yes, I did. Kyle wasn't listening carefully; he would have known too.
I bet you can go to the Budweiser.
Here we go.
We got horse, find some of the old ones.
We've got horse deals in Australia. What's a horse set you back over here?
$1,000.
Oh, 25 for a camp draft mare, apparently.
So if you actually want a horse, you'll find that there are tons of people.
You got a horse guy?
There'll be tons of people who their daughter wanted to be a princess for a week.
Yeah.
And they bought a fucking
here we go.
$3,000 horse. And now they have a horse that's
gelding.
$900.
Yeah. Arabian chestnut gelding, 3 years old, $5,000.
Why is it 900 now?
Because they don't want a pet that costs $3,000 that they got to feed that nobody rides because it's mean as a cuss.
I've always wanted a horse. I've only ever ridden a horse once, and I enjoyed it. But he seemed like he was extremely well trained. I mean, he was a hire out horse. Like you don't.
Yeah, nobody will let you on a horse that's not.
This was like they're gonna have like a black horse stallion.
Really?
Like,
I used to go to this dude ranch. It was a family vacation that we do a lot. And
cool.
Ride horses, and I thought I was good at riding horses. I now know I was a tourist who overestimated his skills, but we could gallop and trot. We went through the woods and whatever. Cool. So then I go to this like Christmas event where they had horses you could sit on, and they warned me that the horse bucked and didn't like people. I said, "Don't worry, I'm good at this." I'm like 11.
So he thinks he's Aragon.
Yeah, exactly. And I get on the horse, and it bucks me. And everyone is like, "You got to get right back on. You got to get right back on the horse." So I did, and it still like shuffled around, but this time I stayed on and then left on my own accord. But I've been bucked by a horse, and they all knew it was like a bucking horse.
They're trying to toughen you up for the.
But you got back on it. You got right back up on that horse.
There's a lot of peer pressure.
I've always enjoyed horses. I think if I ever moved out west, I would get myself a hat and a horse.
Dream big.
Yeah.
He's back to the fedora with his sword.
Yeah,
I say that because I've said this before. One of the things I despise the most is a fucking poser. Somebody who's all hat and no cattle. You know what I mean? I don't like that. I don't like those people who fucking walk around in their army fucking fatigues and how and they play Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Like I don't like posers. So I can't buy that cowboy hat if I'm not riding a horse. I feel that way very strongly.
Here's my take on it. You can tell me as a subject matter expert, tell me if you think I'm right. Straw hat, mowing the yard on a tractor.
Of course.
That's right?
Yeah, it's a mowing hat. Yeah,
straw hats are only after Labor Day, mate.
Oh, my bad.
What are your favorite videos to research and watch? Is it the conspiracy angles or is it the creepy stuff? I'm sure there's a good bit of fusion there.
Oh yeah, there is. It depends on like what the video is specifically. Like for example, some of the stuff with like my main conspiracy theory mainline series, some of it can get a little bogged down because a lot of it is similar, and sometimes your evidence is a 4chan post from 2014 that had like
Yeah.
2
That's how I
likes,
make
and
a
you're
lot
like,
of beliefs.
yeah. I hear a lot of religions are starting that way.
Yeah.
But stuff like that is like very hit or miss if I like it or not. Now, like the video that I'm editing right now that should be up in the next couple days is about the MLK assassination. And that kind of stuff is like my stuff, like reading like the logs and court reports. Love that kind of thing. I also love reviewing like online horror series like ARG stuff, just because I think it's really cool to put together this giant puzzle and see how everything fits. But yeah, like I always say in my videos that I only talk about stuff I like talking about, and that's been true so far. I'm very happy that I can make stuff I'm happy about and have this kind of success with it.
What's
beautiful?
So what's the deal with
Thank you.
MLK? Was it the CIA? When something fucked up happens, I always assume CIA.
Oh, brother, it was 1,010% the CIA. Like, not even a question. So much so that the King family also believes it was, and they spent the last 3 years of James Earl Ray, the alleged shooter. They spent the last 3 years of his life trying to get him out of jail because the family thought he was innocent.
Wow.
In 1999, in Shelby County, Tennessee, the King family sued the United States government, specifically through an agent. And the specific one that did the suing was Martin Luther King's wife. They sued the government for conspiracy to commit wrongful death and won. So in a civil court, they officially decided the government did kill MLK.
I never even knew that, man.
Yeah, that is wild. and that's not even news. Like
no,
wow, yeah, I had no idea. That's not common knowledge as far as I know.
People are like, but if you told someone, like, did you know that MLK was killed by the CIA? Like, I feel like a lot of people would
be like, oh,
yeah.
he's one of those guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, put up the tinfoil hat or whatever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it was like the King family who did the research and got it and all that, which is like, there's, I mean, I don't think I have to tell you guys that some information is chosen to be fed while others is not.
Of course.
And stuff that has to do with like a distrust of the state tends to be on the don't show as much.
Who was who was the guy who went to prison for shooting MLK? Was that like Mark David?
James Earl Ray.
James Earl Ray. They always have 3 fucking names.
Or David Chapman was John Lennon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the civil court thing decided that. Well, and in civil court, did they ever bring up that, you know, there's a guy sitting in prison for this murder and blah, blah, blah?
Well, so he died in 1998 and the civil court was in 1999. So it was more so exonerating a dead man.
Was he retroactively exonerated?
So just in the nick of time.
By civil court, yes. In official court, no, because double jeopardy and all that stuff. He was already accused of it. But like, man, I tell you, like, I went into the MLK video like, oh, the FBI killed MLK. And then I did the research. It was like, oh my gosh, they destroyed that.
You're
man.
like, this is way too obvious. They didn't even try to cover it.
They didn't. Like, there was one witness who saw James Earl Ray there, and 74 who saw a different man there, and they went with the one guy.
They went with the one guy, Agent.
You know,
Steven.
So that one guy who saw him was actually in a drunk stupor at the time, and then during an interview with ABC, the journalist held up a picture of James Earl Ray, and the guy goes, "Who's that?"
Oh my god!
And the reporter goes, "That's James Earl Ray," and he goes, "Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's not really the guy who I saw, but I mean, maybe from the back, it's
the only way to like bail yourself out of that is like, oh man, he's gained a lot of weight.
Clearly, the stress of being a murderer
is weighing on him. His hair fell out and everything.
I'm like that's totally my bias is like if I hear something that's like, you know, something fucked up the FBI or the CIA did, I'm like, you don't even have to explain it. I believe you.
Yeah.
I used to not be like that.
But if
Once
like
upon a time.
yeah, if they came out and they were like CIA stops hunger in Nigeria, like poor village, I'd be like, no.
What's that village got to hide, huh?
Yeah,
Who's in that village?
Maybe Nigeria is not even real. I've never been.
You know, one of the wildest things about the MLK assassination that didn't have to do with the conspiracy.
Mm.
So Jesse Jackson was with him the day of the assassination. As a matter of fact, King was hanging over a balcony talking to Jackson in the parking lot below whenever he was shot.
Yep.
Immediately, Jesse Jackson ran to the news, and he was wearing a sweater covered in blood and said that he was holding MLK as he was dying. And that's what the blood on the sweater is. Every single person who was there that day said what actually happened is MLK got shot and Jesse Jackson ran off and the rest of them stayed there with him. And Jesse Jackson went somewhere, put fake blood on himself, and then went to the news so he could get the attention for it.
He like tried to pull his own like Juicy Smollett thing.
Well,
yeah, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. In research for it, MLK had a lot of problems with Jackson because every time they would go to a rally or protest, he would like aggravate it or like get it as a problem. There was one instance, I think it was some city up north, where King was giving a speech and he was talking about nonviolence, and the police show up, and Jackson's immediately like, "All right, guys, it's time to fight, make a wall," and like made this whole violent protest.
Yeah, like rabble rousing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, yeah.
And he was like, there's a bunch of accusations he was trying to take the spotlight. And it was specifically King's brother who was furious at him for going to the news in a fake bloody sweater.
I can
Being
imagine.
like, "Oh man, he died in my arms." Yeah.
Trying
Dude,
to
if
take
he
the credit.
really
It's
went
like
to-
a tremendously narcissistic thing to do. Like MLK dies, and it's like, but how am I gonna get positive attention?
How do I
He wants to
profit
be
from this
remembered in history.
scenario?
He wants to
The
be remembered in
important thing
history
to remember
books.
is what about me?
I would hit him up all the time. I'd be like, yo, that was super weird. The next year, I'd be like, yo, you remember last year when my brother died and you did that whole thing? Super weird. I never want you to forget how fucking weird that was. We all think you're weird. All the people I talk to, all my homies think you're weird.
Yo, that was
I
weird.
just got to know. Where did you get the blood?
And why
Yeah, where
why
was
did
MLK
why did MLK have acrylic-based blood?
You
60s,
came
wasn't
up
it?
with a liter of fake blood in like 8 minutes in Alabama on a Thursday afternoon. I've got to know more.
You just like
I've got to
grab
know.
the bird, pop its head off like a bottle of
I
ketchup.
have children,
Just murdered
goddammit. I can't allow you around them until I know where you got the blood.
Where did you get the blood? You can't come around my
You have
kids.
to know.
Fine, I got it
Damn
from
it,
Sherwin
Jesse.
Williams. Get off my ass.
Oh. Well, let's
Oh, okay, well, in that case, you can come around the kids again.
fine. No, I don't know anything about that conspiracy, about the MLK thing, but I do know that they were surveilling him and recording him and stuff, and they had that like salacious audio of him having sex with his wife, and they were trying to use that against him. He's like, I don't care. Yeah,
He's like, I'm married, bro.
Yeah.
They wrote him a letter to try to get him to kill himself.
Yeah.
Where the FBI posed as like a member, like I think it was a black teen who was like a fan of him, and was like, "Man, you should probably kill yourself before this goes public." It's like,
Wow.
okay.
The first troll comment existed.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
paper.
the first one in all history. Probably not, but yeah.
The first YouTube
You know it's wild.
comment.
Whenever I was going through research for it, the like first detail I got to that made me be like, "There's no way," and then sure enough, it was real. The gun, it was a Remington 760 in 30-06. The gun that had Ray's fingerprints on it was never matched ballistically to the bullet that killed King. They tried it over and over.
Fuck, man.
And the best that they could determine is that it was the same model, probably because the rifling patterns within the barrel were similar. They're like, yeah, we can't exactly determine this is the same rifle that did it, but it's probably close enough.
Are you scared
Close
at night?
enough.
Are you scared at night
Oh,
that you're
you're
on a
muted.
list or something?
No, there he is. No,
You're not worried that you're on a list.
I'm on a list.
Oh, I know. I know for a fact I'm on a list.
Kyle's
But I
probably on a
don't.
list.
Like, I know Cal's on several lists.
They made me sign
I
up
think-
for the list. They were like, "All right, this is for the list," and they like scanned my like face and took my DNA. Like yeah, I'm on a list.
I think
We're all on
Kyle and I
lists.
Not that
Well,
one, but I
everybody's
think we
on
share
it.
a few lists.
Dairy farmers are really very powerful, and like muscle milk here is muscle MLK. R.I.P. It doesn't have an eye in it. It literally doesn't have an eye in it.
Yeah, it wrapped around.
It says
back
muscle
around.
milk.
I have a dream that we're all gonna get so fucking jacked we can fight for equality.
Muscle milk.
Right
I
there,
have a
look it up.
dream that I can hit my macros in a convenient way at gas stations and convenience
They can't-
stores.
Muscle MLK.
They can't call it. They can't call it milk here, so it literally says muscle milk, but there's
I
no
wanna
eye in the
see-
milk.
I want to see a muscle MLK like Photoshop so goddamn bad. I want to see him ripped. I want to see him like on Ronnie Coleman's body. That's what I want. I want MLK on Ronnie Coleman's body.
Make it
Dude,
happen.
I'm sure that
Yeah,
I'm
muscle
sure it's out there. It
MLK.
has to
I
be.
like that.
Absolutely, it's out there.
That
you're gonna
bullet wouldn't
you're gonna get MLK on that black guy's body. You know which one I'm talking about, sitting on the side of the bed. That
Oh.
exists. That exists out there. 100%.
OG
Isn't it-
Mudbone. Yeah,
Isn't that guy dead?
Yes.
I don't know.
is he?
Not
I
with
remember like,
Photoshop.
hearing
He's
something
not.
about him. I remember hearing
remem-
something about him how like he needed the money and he had to like pose for those photos to like help
I
someone
read
in his
that too.
life.
Yeah.
Like somebody was like maybe health issues or whatever. Like someone needed money, and so he posed for those photos, and he regrets it.
Regretted it apparently.
Oh, well,
Now
that's
it gets
sad.
Photoshop.
Thanks, Kyle. Now it's complicated.
Yeah.
I
Now
can't
we're
just
human
flash up the fucking
traffickers when you
picture.
Deal with that.
meme it with your
Now it's
Deal with that.
complicated, he says.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I
no,
just like they're like she's dying. We need you. We need your gigantic cock right now.
We need you,
If there was
Mudbone.
ever a time that the world needs your humongous hanging dick, it's right now.
It's now.
just sit there and look regal because we're gonna put MLK's face on you.
Gotta keep it respectable.
He lives on though.
It's the trial of Adolf Eichmann. And they have the real footage from the trial. There's Adolf Eichmann sitting in his fucking glass box, and it was
Is he a
Is
Nazi?
he a Nazi? Yeah,
he was the main Nazi. He was the architect.
Does he
of the
sound
final
like a
solution.
Nazi?
I'm almost positive that he wasn't the main one.
Yeah, the main one I think of is a different Adolf.
You know,
Yeah,
like Goebbels.
no.
Not Adolf.
No.
No, keep
The
going.
main one,
Keep
Hitler.
going.
He's got a
Yeah.
funny
Oh,
mustache.
Oh no. Okay, I know about Hitler. I'm saying that Adolf
I
Eichmann
thought
was.
you knew about him.
For the listener, Hitler was the leader of Nazi Germany,
Yeah.
starting
Wait,
in the
break it down for me.
30s and then
Who was Hitler again? No, so Hitler did a lot of things. I'm not trying to. By the way, I'm not trying to take any like onus off of Hitler here, but Adolf Eichmann was the guy who's like, it said it on his
I
plaque.
was not trying to take
You
it
know what I
away
mean?
from him.
Like on his door.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
Far be it from him.
big ups to Hitler, but Adolf
Jesus
Eichmann.
Christ.
No, so they got him in that fucking. It's what they did. This happened in 1960, many years after the war. Obviously, they caught his ass. The Mossad did, kidnapped him out of South America, injected him with something, threw him in a uniform, drug him through the airport, and was like, we've got a sick man here, faking Spanish accents. Got him on the plane. He wakes up in Tel Aviv. Guess what? That thing you signed while we were slapping you around for 3 days in that building, that says you're going on trial in Israel, and you agreed to it. They throw him in the glass box and they put him on trial, and the documents are piled sky high. They bring a witness from every country that he killed Jews in, an eyeball witness. They've got the documents there of everyone who came into Auschwitz for like a couple years, and the numbers match the numbers that everybody's fucking tatted up with, so they know it's a real document. And they've got quotes from him. The prosecutor has a fucking number on his arm, by the way. That was interesting. And he's going through the.
That doesn't look good for that guy. Then yeah.
It doesn't look good for anybody.
Are you saying it's personal?
I'm
It
saying
was
he
so
took it very
personal.
personally. Yeah,
Dude, I was fascinated by this thing because he defended himself 80% of the way through the trial, saying like, no, that's not true. I was following orders in Hungary. I was following orders in Poland. I didn't say this. I didn't say that. And they're like, here's some quotes from you. And they read this. It's just very incriminating quote from him. And Eichmann's like, maybe I'd been drinking, or maybe I didn't say that. I don't remember saying that. And it's like, dude, you're done. It doesn't really come across as well as I'm doing it because there's German being translated to Hebrew and there's a delay.
That's a very funny thing to like focus on in like a Holocaust trial, though, is like, we're going to mention now something pretty mean you said. It's like, no. I think you're burying the lead here, Mr. Attorney. I think you should lead off stronger.
You know, there's hurt feelings.
in so many
quote is him
countries.
incriminating himself, and it's him talking about
Zach
his
just
true
posted
belief
one of the
as
quotes. It's fucked up.
it's him letting you know that he's a real Nazi, and someone who's a real Nazi does their job with like joy in their heart.
Jesus
the way he
Christ.
kills the Jew, he's really laying it
Wow.
on thick about being a Nazi.
This
That's what he
quote
was
is
all about.
outrageous. I'm scared to read it for fear that
Yeah,
it'll
that
be
quote's
like a
fucking
TikTok
I will
crazy,
leap
right?
into
It was
my
fun.
grave laughing because the feeling that I have 5 million human beings on my conscience is for me a source of extraordinary satisfaction. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good quote. Doesn't play well in
I don't
court, you'd
think the
imagine.
jury's
If
gonna like
someone's-
that.
Can you like
Yeah.
if you saw that in a movie, you'd be like, "Come on, I need a realistic
Yeah.
bad guy. I need someone with a little nuance in the mix." It's like if Tony Soprano was like, "And another thing, all the
Yeah.
Jews got to go." It's like it's like all right, Tony. How about you handle New York first?
Yeah.
You can get
Tony
the-
always liked the Jews.
He did.
Yeah, the documentary is very cool. I didn't watch the last 10 minutes of it. I'm sure they're gonna fucking kill him or something like that. I had to come do this.
Yeah, it doesn't go
But,
well. Eichmann.
I think it
I
ends
bet
poorly
did
for
he get
Eichmann.
hanged or shot.
I think
or
he
something?
escapes at the end. I think it turns out Hitler was alive the whole time. Sneaks
Goes
him
to
out.
Argentina.
Dark Side of the Moon. Iron Sky, baby.
Of course.
No, idiots. It's Antarctica.
Yeah.
That's where Hitler
yeah.
went.
Have you seen
Argentina's,
the montage of Joe Rogan not getting jokes? Like they're just
No.
going over his head. Dude, I like Joe's show, and Joe knows more about comedy than me, and he's funnier than me, blah, 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 all those things. But God, he doesn't get a joke. He's having this discussion with this lady, and they're talking about the Nazis or something, and she does this really good wordplay about how you could defend anything that they've done. And Joe's like, "What about the Nazis? Did they have a right?" And she's like, "They did, the Third Reich." And he
Yeah.
doesn't get the little wordplay joke that he's
Oh.
making. He goes,
Mhm.
I don't think it's right. I think it's Reich. Jamie, what is a Reich? You know? What is a Reich? And he doesn't know what a Reich means empire. He doesn't know what a
Yeah.
Reich is. And she's sitting there like really awkward. So the first Reich would have been, I guess, the Roman Catholic Empire or
Yeah.
whatever. And the second Reich would have been
Second
the
is the
Prussians.
Ottoman Empire. Yeah.
And then Hitler creating the Third Reich in the 40s. And then you often hear the Fourth Reich from neo-Nazis and such. And so yeah, that's it.
There's a
Oh, really?
fourth
I
one
would've-
people are
There's
going for
only
now?
so much.
Well, we're
weed you should
hoping
smoke
to
during the
staunch
show.
that down and keep
Does
Fourth Reich.
Reich necessarily mean bad?
No.
Because
No,
it just
couldn't
mean rude.
America be a
It
Reich?
It just,
Couldn't we be
it's
the
like
Fourth Reich?
that Charlie Chaplin mustache. Not necessarily bad. Bad today. It's,
Yeah.
The meaning has-
Unless
the
it's
meaning has-
Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan.
The meaning has changed
Yeah,
over
right.
time, but
Mm.
Hitler
been
meant
co-opted.
it as empire, and we mean it as empire. And you got to go back to a little bit before. I don't know if the
Dude, that's a
Prussians
terrible
had an
track
empire.
record of Reichs. Like the first Reich, you said it was the Roman Empire.
Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
I would have been like the Roman
Wildly
Catholic Empire.
successful.
The
Yeah.
Wildly
no,
successful.
the,
And then the Ottoman Empire.
the church.
Not as successful, but wildly
think that's what's
successful. Huge drop off on that.
I was
third
waiting
one.
for Taylor's
How
Third
many-
Reich.
I was
Did you
about
see
to
it?
stick with
He's
the
like,
middle
we got the first one. We got the
This is the
second one.
Yeah. But that's pretty
Well,
embarrassing.
they're not like
he was
aspiring to
leading into
empires.
that where
They're-
he's
Those
no,
are the
he was
Germanic
definitely
empires.
aspiring
Yeah,
to, like,
yeah.
Those
be
were the
that level.
Germanic empires in particular. Like that's what he's aspiring to be, the third
Hmm.
Germanic empire. Not just the third in succession, because there's many families that ruled and
Yeah.
and it changed hands many times over those hundreds of years. But he's talking about a new thing.
Right.
Didn't work out, luckily.
Didn't they? Good for everybody else. Didn't work out so much.
Yeah, not
for
luckily,
everybody
thanks to the
else.
sacrifice of like millions
Yeah.
and millions
But
of
100
men.
million European men.
Oh,
Something
Zach,
ridiculous.
correct. The Weimar Republic was the Second Reich, not the Ottoman Empire. That was the ruling party that Hitler overthrew.
Yes. Yeah, that was in the that was post
It would have
World
been-
War One.
20s and 30s. Yeah,
post
the weakened,
I think
the weakened
1918
Germany.
revolution. I
I think it ended in the
Right.
20s or maybe even 1920 flat, but it goes back to the 1800s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to
No,
go live
it's
in any
That's
empire,
a really good documentary, though. I highly recommend it. It's fun to see
Any
his
empire?
Yeah, there you go.
any empire before the year 1000.
Ooh.
So it's got to be a good while ago. You can't just pick
Okay.
up something super recent.
Rome.
Question. Do I get to be Genghis Khan?
No,
If
but
so,
you get. How about this?
Mongolia.
You get. You're not Genghis Khan. You're not even a super high ranking general, but you're like a lieutenant he respects. You're in a good place.
Okay. All right. Ooh, I mean, peak Rome was probably kind of awesome, actually.
That's what I was going for. Yeah,
peak Rome was pretty fucking sweet, I think, for a lot of folks. Or maybe peak Athens. Peak Athens was probably all right too.
I'm going
that would
Rome,
be cool.
100%.
Yeah, Rome has got to be it. Like nobody else.
Toilets.
Yeah,
they've got toilets, dude. Like
running water.
You can't say that about everyone. They had hot running water if you're rich. But I think you could just be a soldier.
Olive
I think
oil.
you could sign up for the army and eat and have a job. It seems like Rome was a much better place than say 500 years ago. Fucking United Kingdom.
You want to be like Rome in the year like 3. Not like 433. Like
I base this entirely on the TV show Spartacus, but I think I'd like to own Gladiators.
I bet that would be a stressful job. Based on what Gladiators had to do.
Like, you got to specify, what white ones. But like,
they would be from every corner of the kingdom.
There was a lot of sex in that show, and everyone was a fucking fitness influencer. So,
but would you want to have sex with gladiators, like people who are trained to kill?
You're judging me now, and that's
you could find sexy whores to have sex with who like don't know how to kill you. And don't spend all day training to do so.
I was really talking about the female staff. There were like orgies, and all those girls were 10s.
That one.
You know what I would do?
Crazy torpedo tits.
If I were the what was Badiatus called in Spartacus? What is the name of the guy who owns all the gladiators, the gladiatorium or some shit?
Yeah,
I would want to be
the guy who's like Proximo in Gladiator, like the promoter.
Yes, like that guy. I would want to like be known for something, like those guys with the big nets and the tridents. Like I wouldn't just be a gladiator trainer. It'd be like we got to go to Tayloratus's whatever in order to
Gladiator
get the
school.
finest net throwers in all of Rome. Like he's known for that. Like that would be fun. Actually, it probably wouldn't also be fun because you'd have a bunch of dangerous.
It should be
men.
all smoke and mirrors. Like you should be the spear master. And you're like, just poke him.
Man, he's the best gladiator trainer. His trick is he gives them the longest spears in the kingdom.
I want to be like a sword maker or some shit. Like someone who was like so good at his craft that you could charge like a boatload of money for it. But like you're kind of cool, like whether you're a soldier or a gladiator or whatever. Like you gotta have a Maticus fucking blade, dude. You gotta have a Feroticus blade.
I like you'd be jacked.
Maticus Feroticus is great. I'm on board.
Steel.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Living in Rome, but like so quickly, you'd be like, oh, this is worse running water. Like this is like
for sure.
They have bathrooms and like everybody else is like, isn't this great? We all get to sit in this room and like sit shit next to each other with no dividers. Like this is so much better than everywhere else on the planet.
Yeah. And they didn't tell me the running water here was downstream of the latrines.
Yeah,
at least the Chinese don't own it.
Wipe your ass with like a sponge on a stick. That's like,
not me. I mean, I'm great. Come on. I mean, maybe you don't. But
everybody loves dogs. Everybody who's normal loves dogs. Well, and some people who aren't normal.
Hitler had dogs.
Hitler loved dogs. That's what I was thinking. He was all about German Shepherds. I don't know if I don't know if it was a German Shepherd thing or a dog thing because I don't think I've ever seen him admiring.
I've seen video of him playing with it. I've seen video of him playing with his dog.
Blondie.
Other dogs. Blondie. Yeah.
That's I remember that.
Remarkable that you know that.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen the History Channel.
And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
And you combine those together and you've got it pretty well wrapped up. The Eagle's Nest, the Third Reich, Hitler.
See, Blondie. I was trying to say I learned it from a documentary, but you're more right about It's Always Sunny. I learned that.
I don't know how I feel about him poisoning the dog in the end. They say it was to test the potency of his cyanide capsules that he gave the dog the cyanide. But I always, and I guess it is because I could imagine putting the dog down because the Russians are coming. Like I'm not going to let the Russians get Blondie, but who knows what they'll do? Their dirty fucking Slavic hands. I mean, we raped our way across Eastern Europe all the way to fucking Stalingrad. They're gonna want some payback on Blondie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're gonna rape the dog. You think
they may rape it? They may indeed rape Blondie, and I wouldn't want that. So I
probably
put
leave the dog alone and steal the washing machine, just based on what I'm looking at.
And I think that he did test the cyanide capsule on the dog, though. He ended up taking the cyanide and then shooting himself, which is an interesting Let's make double.
Why would you
kinda...
do two? Like, and how do you not trust cyanide? Isn't like my understanding of a cyanide pill wasn't like, and that's the exact amount to end your life. I thought it was like, this is a chunk of poison. It will kill you. Like you're going to die. It could kill 8 people if we all split this. Maybe I'm
no.
wrong.
Sometimes people survive it, and sometimes they're scarred by it. I guess. Remember that was the whole deal with that James Bond villain, is he had bitten his. Obviously, it's James Bond, but he had bitten the capsule, and it had fucked his whole face up because he survived it. And then
was that the guy who was
captured
like,
and tortured?
Don't put it in your pocket.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Different movie, but yeah, that's Javier Bardem.
No, it's the same movie. It's
just imagine.
Mr. Bond, don't put that in your pocket, or it will become just a magical orb. I've never seen that movie. I don't know what it's about.
That's how he looks at it. He's like, ooh. And then you nailed it. Perfect. Yeah.
I believe that. I believe that happened in Vietnam. I believe that happened in Afghanistan. I don't know how to measure Iraq.
Korea was the last real loss we took, in my opinion. Korea, what happened?
Not Vietnam?
No, because we decided to lose Vietnam. Korea, the Chinese came and kicked us out. Like we lost Vietnam because we didn't want to. It's true. It's historical fact.
I'm waiting. Listen to him make his point.
We lost Vietnam because we decided not to win, because the public weren't supporting the war. We didn't want to use the tactics that would have allowed us to win, like bombing the North. And they spent all that time deforesting the South and fighting in jungles against, Viet Cong. And we won. We still won every single battle. Like we decided the war was just not cool anymore. And so we stopped doing it. Korea, on the other hand, we got made to look like fools by the Chinese.
No, but not in Vietnam. We didn't look foolish.
No.
Do you know what the KD for Vietnam was?
Doesn't matter. We lost.
I don't see it that way. We don't play the objective.
We played we don't play the objective.
I'm just saying this is a very hindsight 2020 American History Channel take, where it's like, actually, we took our ball and went home, so there was no battle. It was a draw. And you could also make the case that they lost support for the American public for the war, but isn't that kind of part of maintaining the war? Is you have to make a case as to why you can rationalize that sort of spending to the public, and they could no longer do it. And so, if anything, we should have got out of there earlier.
I don't know what that has to do with anything. I just think that's a war that we chose to lose. If we wanted to win it, I mean, why don't they start dropping nukes on the north part of the country, right? Or send 1 million men over there, or just keep grinding them away with bomb. We never bombed the north. I always go back to that, but it's just the truth. But in Korea, like the Chinese just came down and just fucked us, all the way back to what is it, the 38th parallel or whatever? It was a humiliating loss.
What do you mean? And I'm sure you can educate me on this. So we didn't napalm in Vietnam, North Vietnam.
Oh, so I'm talking about the cities and infrastructure in the north, in their capital. What was the capital of North Vietnam? Is it
Hanoi?
Something like that.
Ho Chi Minh City.
They didn't bomb up there the way that the generals wanted to bomb. I think it was a political decision. I know a lot less about Vietnam than I do Korea, though. Korea is fucking wild.
I don't know anything about either.
The Chinese sent 1 million. So
I did an 18-page paper on the French involvement and the American involvement in Vietnam, and let me tell you, this dude named Adarn Westad wrote a large book, and I read it all, and I retained very little, but it didn't seem like he thought we won. So Adarn Westad, he was pretty adamant on the L we held. No cap.
Have we had a really big, no one can deny victory since World War II?
I think that was and also we kind of just stole the show there. We didn't really put in a lot of legwork.
That is true. We basically showed up way far into it, and the UK is like, "Oi, bruv, we can't afford a war anymore," and we're like, "We'll loan you all the money." If we
you gotta pay it back,
forever, bitch. Yeah, and then we went in, and I mean, without America, they couldn't have won, right?
No,
no. They definitely could, because the supply chain. It was basically everybody was making a tank an hour.
We're forgetting about Japan. I think the Germans would have fallen, I think, without U.S. military intervention at all. I don't think we needed to send a single troop. I think a lot more Russians and Brits and French would have died in the long run. But I think that they could have won without us probably there. We definitely needed to keep sending them money and materiel though. But I don't know what happens in the Pacific if we don't island hop across the biggest ocean in the world and just fuck shit up the whole way. The Pacific is the coolest part of the war. Everybody
principally attacking. Like it was the rape of Nanking. Like they were going to mainland China. It was that the biggest of their focus there. In the Western theater, they had 7 to 8 million troops scattered throughout the region at the time of the surrender. So there were guys who had been away for so long they didn't know what had happened back home. Like they came home to rubble. They were all over the region though, from the Philippines to China and like butting up, getting close to Russia. They had conquered an enormous swath of land there. But if you look at their reasoning, this is getting real History Channel and boring. I'll stop.
I was engaged. If you look,
I'm interested.
Well, it was like a video game, right? Where you're like, we don't have enough iron. Like we just don't have it. Like when you play Civ, sometimes like you just don't have iron or oil or wood or whatever. And it's like, all right, well I'm fucked. Like I might as well quit.
That's why Russia's so good. They start
or I could go take Woody's fucking wood. Woody's not even looking. All right, bow. Woody's wood is mine, and that's what they did, like sweeping across the region.
There's your mistake.
They needed oil.
Stop playing with his wood.
They needed
oil. My notice.
They needed oil. They needed timber. They needed rubber. Like they needed those things, and they didn't have them in the amounts that they wanted them.
Well, maybe we'll get them next war.
We got them last war.
Maybe we'll round two.
No, not World War II. I was talking about the whole scope
Vietnam
of wars.
too.
Instead of Afghanistan, next war we'll bring it home. Bring home the gold.
I think you're wrong about this winning wars thing. I think that we have
loser talk.
Sounds like somebody who's been beat back geopolitically.
Hi, I'm an incel, and I think you're a little hung up on getting laid.
It's just like all right. So like we were at war with the Al Qaeda, right? Like
yes.
I mean, we got the guy that ran the thing. Doesn't that a W?
I mean, we won that battle, but not the war.
Now it's battles and wars.
I guess it depends. You know what we need to do? More clearly define achievable goals, and then if we achieve them, call it a win.
I really agree.
Yeah, but when you can always
agree with you.
But when you always change your achievable goals, like if Russia's goal was to conquer Ukraine in a blitzkrieg in 4 days, and then they change it to just to secure like Donbass region east. Like, does that make it a loss if they ended up with a net positive but didn't achieve their initial goals? Like, it's gonna be hard because it's really the only people that get to decide if you win or not are the people that are involved.
Yeah, I think after Vietnam or during the talks to quit Vietnam, it was like peace with honor or something like that. Looking for a way to say, all right, we're fucking done, but not look bad at the same time.
Yeah, it was a picture of an American GI with his pants down, ass spread. It's okay. They're all elderly now. No one's gonna care. They don't know YouTube's around.
Those were American heroes.
They gaped their ass for the U.S.
Dude, I feel bad for those guys. Like they must have gone into it like we're gonna come back like our uncles and parents and we'll be heroes because they saw World War II and everything, and then they come back and like people spit on them.
Yeah,
which is like
called them baby killers.
And think about that. You get torn out of your life, drafted, forced to fight a war that you don't want to fight, and then you come home and people spit on you. And it's like you're a trash person. Like that's just wild. And they knew at the time they got drafted in, right? Everyone knew.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, no, not everyone was drafted.
Yeah, but
a lot of them were.
Had to be
some people may have joined because.
What did they do to incentivize joining before they could give out Camaros?
Because I just a day of the year, and every male born in a certain year on that day had to go in the next few days and register. So they'd be like, April 6th, if you're born in April 6th between 1948 and 1952, show up at your local,
That's awful. I'd shoot myself in the foot.
You didn't know that? That's how they did it. Lotteries. So like five lotteries. Different birthdays would come up every couple of weeks, and if you were one of those birthdays, you were going to Vietnam.
No, there's no way.
A lottery number. I didn't realize it was birthday based.
Birthdays.
I didn't know that until I read about it. It's interesting.
My dad told me some story about that once because he's 1953 in April, and he was like, I think maybe he said it was the day next to his day was like one of the came up, and it was like And I'm like, I asked him once, I'm like, would you have gone? You know, would you have gone and, you know, to Vietnam? And he's like, there was no question. You know, if they come and they load you up in a truck and they fucking take you, like what am I gonna do? Go to Canada? I don't know anybody in Canada. This is my home. Yeah. So you go.
I want to read this. 2/3 of the U.S. military who served in the Vietnam War and more than half of the names on the wall volunteered for duty. The other 1/3 were drafted primarily into the Army. Beginning in 1969, draftees were picked via televised lottery based on the date of birth. Okay.
A third.
Yeah.
Catch me sitting there with my boys drinking heavily, waiting for them. Like, come on, this is the worst Powerball ever.
There were a couple ways to beat the draft, right? One was like
the Ted Nugent.
The Ted Nugent. He literally pooped himself and made him seem crazy, and they didn't.
Listen, I would
There's
feel
the
confident.
Donald Trump, where he had a doctor that was a friend of the family who said that he had bone spurs, right? So that was a way. But another way was to go to college. And you know, if you can get accepted into college,
I'm not getting
student deferment, stuff like that. And I think there was another one too, but there were a couple ways to dodge.
Probably some family-based stuff that made you less likely, maybe.
There was a family-based one, but to Woody's point, I was going to bring up the other one because that's how my grandpa got exempted. If you were a farm worker who was like if you like worked on a farm and like did stuff like livestock raising or like and you were deemed to be like indispensable to the running of that farm,
you were part of the war effort.
They took you out of it and were like, you are worth more working on this farm, raising cattle or raising livestock or raising, you know, crops than you are with the war effort. And so he got a notice about that.
Where I was headed with that is it became kind of class-based. Like some of these things, going to college, working on a farm, owning a farm, like it's the unemployed. It's the, you know,
we send our poor to die.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just poor. Like my grandpa didn't own a farm. He just was a worker on a farm who, like, he was 22 years old. He didn't have running water.
Taylor,
like it was just an amount.
You're invalidating my argument.
Oh, sorry.
We don't want your anecdotal evidence to the contrary of Woody's point.
But yeah, there were some, maybe being a parent. I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, there were some class-based things that let you avoid the draft. And like Tucker said, we sent our poor to war. So probably won't do that again. I think we're a little more hip to that.
Eventually we will.
Every country in the world sends their poor to war. The next time we need to send people to war, it will be poor people. When it's time to snatch people and draft people, the same thing will happen. It will be poor people. There will be ways to get exemptions, and the poor won't be able to come up with them. It'll always be that way. It has always been that way for all eternity.
Kind of point. Like that's why that's large reason of why the army is built off of like reliable pay, food, and housing. Like that's like it's like, oh, you can't get it elsewhere. Well, look at this. It's not good, but like you get it. So all the way back.
I hadn't looked at it through that lens, but I so completely agree with you.
That's another reason why I say we've never lost a war.
And housing. Those three: reliable food, pay, and housing.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, don't people point to a lot of like repeat offenders as a reason for them to go back to jail with nonviolent crimes is to have a structured place like that to live. And I mean, like that's also a definite draw to the other one.
So in my little universe, I've seen adults, parents encourage their kid to go into the military when they think they need that structure. Right, so you're sort of talking about how the kids might opt into it because they.
I'm talking about a need using the military as like it because it really is. If you're looking at it, your likelihood to see combat as a United States military serviceman right now, like probably the lowest it's ever been. Right, we lost how many people in the 20 years of Iraq? Like your likelihood of dying in a conflict. Like we're looking at how war is changing and stuff. Like I see a lot. I had a lot of friends of mine who pre-pandemic were working in the music industry. I say a lot. I mean literally 2. But that's a lot versus 0 my whole life, right? That went to the military. He was like, why would I not go get stationed? I'm Korean American. Why would I not go get priority station back in Korea and get paid for it and do menial tasks over there until like things settle down? And I'm like, oh, yep, okay, that's an outlet that a lot of people find themselves in.
And something that like you saying that brought it up in my mind, like just kind of realizing this now, like a lot of the people who are like brought in like grunts, like army, like that in like Vietnam, that would have been like the draft people. Like, and I'm like, we don't have a draft now, but I'm sure this kind of carries over is like the people, like I know a friend who's very high up in the Marines, I'll say, like he went on special missions and stuff. And he is a guy who, like, his whole life, he wanted to be a Marine. He had toys of Marines as a kid. That, like, you asked that kid at 7 years old. I remember because we went to first and second grade together, all those schools. Everyone else was like, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a dinosaur. And he's like, I want to be a U.S. recon Marine. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, a recon Marine, like a scout Marine, like a sniper. And it's like, you're 6. What are you talking about? And he was obsessed with that his whole life. And so, like, I imagine that a lot of these, like, creme de la creme, like, elite guys, like the SEALs, it's not someone, it's not like it's not like a Captain America where some loser comes in and they're like, you happen to be the best Marine of all time. Like, no, these guys, like, want to be the tippity top and they train for it. It's like the backfill of the bulk that is, like, people who don't want to be there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know what the death rates are like, but I would actually imagine a lot more of the, like, operation teams die by
you will probably get a really.
The pit bull thing reminded me, one of the games that we're proposing in that Roman gladiatorial show was, they were like, we've brought in 20 midgets from Persia and we're going to set them against an equal number of pit bulldogs. And he was like, the guy was like, interesting, but this is a large affair. This is very important. We need something with more gravitas. And he's like, well, we have some red-assed baboons.
That we will also make fight midgets. And it's like, this guy is just a one-track mind.
They were gonna women, like human women, with the red-assed baboons. And he was like, I don't think my brother's into that sort of thing. I don't think that's really his style. And then he's like, well, we also have a ghost lion. And it's like, dude, why don't you open with ghost lion? You have a giant albino African lion. Like, start with that. You started with
that guy's got 40 Persian midget slaves burning a hole in his pocket, and he's trying to get rid of them.
No, dude,
20 Persian midgets versus 20 pit bulldogs. Like, what's that? Like the teaser for the fights? That's going to be over in no time.
I think they arm the midgets a little, maybe armor them, maybe give them sticks or clubs a little.
Ooh,
so
that's more fair.
You wouldn't want them barehanded. Like, you'd want them to put up a bit of a fight, but obviously, the pit bulls are going to win unless they really rally. What if they formed a tiny little phalanx?
Ooh, I'd like that. And I hope that's in the show.
Yeah. The show's fun because the one brother's like the warrior brother and the other's like the gay artsy brother. And the warrior brother is like banging the queen of the Jews. Like, he conquered Jerusalem and took their queen as his concubine. But they're like kind of in love. So the gay brother makes a Roman game, like this thing they're going to do. He's like, build the city of Jerusalem, and then we'll burn it down. And then we'll have the women and children Jews flee out of the burning Jerusalem model, and we'll set the lion upon them. And so
the emperor's like, I'm really more into like the sword fighting. Like, if you could keep it to that. You're trying to sell me midgets and Jews fleeing. Give me swords.
It was pretty dark.
Tell me more about these Jews.
Give me more of those guys with the tridents and the Retiarius. Is that what it's called?
They set 3 Retiarius.
Wait, what is this? I can't be the only one who does.
You have a trident and a net, trident, and you wear a specific helmet, and you also have a short sword. It's a type of gladiator. So what they would do, it wasn't just like,
they had a trident.
So a gladiator means that's your combination of weapons and armor.
Yeah, there were classes of
almost
them.
like a class in a video game. Like, all right, you're the Retiarius guy. You're like the fisherman mock-up warrior man. You have a trident, and you have a net, and there's a specific helmet, and you also have a short sword. And so they set 3 of those guys onto one giant champion guy. That was a cool fight. They have this giant for the show. I don't know who he is, but he looks like he's 7 fucking feet tall. He's enormous.
Is he a Retiarius? Or a Murmillo? I remember that one. That's also in Age of Mythology.
He's a Thraex, I think. If I had to, because he has a helmet kind of like that. Oh no, the Samnus. That's exactly what he is. Because he has a sword, he has a shield like that and a big fucking helmet. Although his sword is like this curvy thing, like the 3X in the top row.
Oh,
I feel like
it baffles me that you guys know these words.
We don't. I'm just reading.
Well, you knew ready.
Yeah, but you were never reading your book of Gladiators and been like, net guy. That would have been me.
Yeah, I've definitely read
kid stuff.
Everybody identified with net guy.
Dude, leave this up, Zach. Look at I feel like most practically the Secutor, the Murmillo are what I'd want to be. But look at the scissor guy at the bottom. That's pretty cool. He's got some sort of hook on a metal arm.
The scissor
He
guy?
can either
I don't
like
see him.
punch that
Oh.
into you or
Oh.
hook it around your weapon and like
his
pull it.
arm has been
probably.
replaced with a gauntlet.
Yeah, he's got a giant metal gauntlet with a hook, like a.
Man,
Well,
I
like
would
a
hate
hook.
to have to fight in a fucking arena. I want to be the in the viewing audience for that shit. Like that
Oh,
would
yeah.
be terrible.
I'd be so nervous, I'd be killed.
I think
like-
those tiny shields would be a problem. The shield needs to have some mass to deflect a blow. Like
Dude,
the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gallus, that little one in the very center. If you
Mhm.
hit me hard with the sword like that, it'd only be a little bit different than hitting me directly on the arm.
Listen, man, these
Yeah.
matches can't last forever. I mean, come on. We got the Lions coming next. We got
touche.
I was
Can't
going to
give
say
too
the
much.
bestiarius looks like the worst, but that's clearly what they're just doing to people when it's like that guy has to fight a lion. You get a
But-
big spear and shorts.
If I could fight any of these, it'd be top right because that's a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take on the gladiatrix.
By the way, I'm under the
Without a
impression that
weapon,
I can.
could take that chick.
Now,
I
is
don't-
Laquarius that type of gladiator or that guy's name?
Oh, very funny, Taylor. Very funny. Aquarius delivered my groceries yesterday. He's a nice guy. He didn't
You
have
brought
the
him from
spear or anything though. He was just
He wasn't ready for battle in the arena.
No, he had shorts on and a hat.
Oh damn! No cool mask.
No, those people the most recent thing I'm watching is Rome. I just finished it. It's a real pity that show got canceled because
Would
could
you
tell that-
recommend it? I have it on my list.
It's
I
good.
definitely recommend it. So it's 2 seasons. You'll tell that things advance quickly. So we'll talk a lot. We'll have Julius Caesar and Caesar Octavian and everyone's in a room. We're talking about the war. Oh, big war with Egypt coming up. And then they're like, all right, let's fucking get them. And then the next scene, the ships of Egypt are burning in the ocean. And it's like, war over, bitches. Now it's time to divvy up Egypt. Like stuff like that'll happen. So they'll
Sex and
really-
violence, right? Lots of it.
So much torture, violence, and nudity. And I wouldn't say the fight scenes are particularly good. They're just okay. But I really like the characters, and it's an accurate telling of like what Roman life was like. Like when you see the interiors of the houses, apparently, the way the streets look, the way especially the way they dress is true to form historically. And while the characters are doing silly things, they're doing the broad points are all historically very much true. Like, yes, Caesar did stay in Gaul until 67. And then he came down into the peninsula and this happened on this year. And yes, Caesar Octavian was the one who was part of the triumvirate with Mark Antony and et cetera, et cetera. Like that's all accurate. But the characters of Pullo and Lucius Vorenus are real people with fictional stories that are fun to follow along. Pullo is like the big brute of a guy that you always want there if someone needs a killing. It's there's characters like that in lots of shows. I really like the guy in The Expanse. He's short, but he's real fucking ripped. He's the psychopath on the and if you're in trouble, if there's a scary man around, it's like, oh, don't worry, he's here. Don't worry, we got the scary guy now. He's our
scared of
guy.
you? This guy's scary.
Pullo is so scary. I'll just spoil a tiny part. You won't know when it's coming probably, but he has an interaction with a guy, and the guy's like, "We don't have to fight here today. No one has to die, Pullo." And Pullo goes, "You're right." And they shake hands, and Pullo headbutts him and then grabs him and pries his mouth apart with both his hands, bites the man's tongue out in front of all of his men, spits it at him, and then charges into them with his sword, and all of his men follow in behind him, while the main guy lays there choking on his blood because he just got his tongue bitten out. It was so awful.
Oh, shit.
I was just like, that's the most hardcore thing I've seen in a minute. That was pretty rough. And then later on,
I forgot about that scene.
Some other characters asking him because they're catching up. Been years since they've seen each other. Hey, what happened? Well, we had a big fight. Yeah, what happened? Well, I pretended like I was gonna agree, and then I headbutted him and bit his tongue out. And he goes, "You bit his tongue out?" Sure did. Tasted like chicken. And they laugh about it. It's great. I love that.
It'd be
call.
hard to bite my tongue out. I feel like I'd pull it in.
Well, yeah, I feel it. He's really getting in there. Like he gets up one hand on the bottom teeth and one hand on the top teeth and pries the guy. And he also is a bit concussed from the headbutt. So he gets in there. It doesn't seem like the first time
he wouldn't have tried that shit with Taylor. He wouldn't have lost the headbutt battle and then tried to pry his jaw open. Good luck with that.
I'd have gotten fucking 8 fingers as a snack.
Just spitting fingertips
You know
at
who
him.
you're fucking with?
Just would have destroyed him. I told you, my dentist is blown away by the size of my masseter muscles. He said, you have the largest masseter muscles I've seen on someone, which is the jaw muscles, because I spent my entire childhood and adolescence up until 27, 28 years old, grinding our teeth so hard in the middle of the night that they just got big.
So I bet there's somewhere with a bite force measurement system. I've seen those. It would be
I'd
interesting.
try it.
Yeah.
My teeth are fake though, so I wouldn't want to go all out biting it. I don't want to break my teeth.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, hopefully it's squishy, like a mouth guard. You would bite hard with a mouth guard, like a hockey mouth guard.
Yeah.
You think that would do well at an arcade, instead of the punching machine, the biting machine?
If you win, you get 100 tickets at Hep C.
It's this game is disgusting.
Because historically, if you weren't at least good at something as a man, you probably weren't going to have any children and pass your DNA along for one reason or another. You had to be good at something. But as a lady,
yeah.
Are you there?
I saw women complaining about men competing in their sport. They said it was absolutely unfair and that we can't, if this trans woman, born a man, now a woman, is competing against us, it's not fair. But that sport was fishing. And I'm like, why are men better at fishing? Why do women think it's not even fair to compete against men in fishing?
Not even close how much better men are at fishing.
It was freshwater fishing, mind you. It's not like they were catching giant marlin.
That's the hard kind. The deep water fishing's easy. You're just let's wait. The freshwater's when they're doing all this fancy casts and picking the right bait for the sun and the water and the cover and the fish.
I just imagine bringing in a marlin might give a strength advantage to a guy, but if the fish weighs 6 pounds or 4 pounds, then women are strong enough.
Men just
tend to obsess over things much, much more, and so any hyper specific hobby, you're gonna have way, way more men than women who are interested in it. I would imagine, and also you're right about the ancestor thing. I think we have tons of men just throughout history just did not fuck and have kids. Tons.
Here's the thing. You ever hear someone say, "Yeah, he's just talented at that thing." You know why? Because his great grandfather was talented at that thing, and that means he got to fuck a lot. There's a lot of people who are talented at jumping because their ancestors were too, and the guys who weren't good at jumping just couldn't get away from that thing, or maybe they just couldn't catch a woman to her. Frankly, it might have been that. You
think Thor Bjornsson was the first strong guy in his family
lineage?
No, he came from a whole line of absolute monsters. You go back
taller than him. His brothers are taller.
Yeah, you go back 400 years, and he's storming a monastery on the coast of England.
God. He would be. He's like a superpower in a world where you don't have machinery and and electronics and stuff. He shows up. Twice 3 times, 4 times as strong as any other human being. The doors can't stop him. He's so big.
I wonder what he looks like without steroids.
Kenyon's rocket.
Let's agree he'd be just as tall and he'd be very strong.
Right.
But without steroids, how big would he be?
He wouldn't. He'd still be that tall and
ancient Viking Thor. I think he'd be the perfect big for smashing people, whatever that would be,
for stealing golden crucifixes from
God,
religious sites.
His body's not the ideal for fighting.
No, it's the ideal for moving weight.
I don't know what fighting meant for them though. I don't think it meant squaring up necessarily as much as it meant chasing people down with an axe.
Yeah,
and just they seem. The Vikings would just roll up on your shore, and you didn't know you had trouble with Vikings. You might not even know what a Viking is. You may have never seen a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white dude that's 6'2", but there he is with all of his buddies. They just rolled up and they're here, and they don't want to talk. They're hacking the door down, screaming in fucking Scandinavian.
I imagine a Roman skilled with a spear beats him. You know, picture
they did.
The poison guy from Game of Thrones.
The
played
Red Viper
Last
of
of Us.
Dorne.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. All right. His character, I think, could beat Thor. There's some dude like that was just agile.
Interestingly enough, have you seen the whole trend of people being the girls ask their boyfriends, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And
yes,
they're like, I don't know, like a couple times a week, maybe. But what you just mentioned, like the Romans conquered all of the Germanic Celtic people, all of Gaul, which was Eastern Europe. Like they conquered or Western Europe. They conquered all of that, and those were those people. I don't know how long that campaign went on for, but they were just. It's some of the things the Romans did are so wild. They just went to the other side of the world with tens of thousands of men. They bring like 80,000 soldiers and go conquer a continent and then build a road back and start taxing and shipping the gold home. And they just kept doing that until they owned so much of the world. It was So I guess I think about the most Empire a couple times a week.
Yeah, at least a couple times a week. It's the coolest empire ever.
I should think about Rome more because I don't know anything.
Yeah, Rome is so cool. 117. That's the peak of their expansion, I believe, right?
Like obviously, I'm the least knowledgeable geography wise, but I know that's fucking England up there in the top left.
Yeah. Looks like they've got Babylon and Britain. That's a big span. And unlike that nonsense where they're like, look at Genghis Khan's empire. It's like, you mean just a trail with burnt villages and no infrastructure and no production and a bunch of
this was a machine though.
This was an empire. Like
every one of those provinces is shipping gold by road and ship back to Rome. It's a machine. It was, and it's. I really like anything about Rome. I wish there was it's a shame that that TV show failed.
They should do more Rome historical shows. Those would slay.
There's a really good one on Netflix. There's a really good like Rome multi-episode, like the history of Rome. It's Spartacus. Very good. Spartacus is good. I mean, it is fairly historical.
Wait. You said Spartacus was good. Did you watch it to the end?
I watched one.
Disregard that.
Look, again, I'm good at reading books by covers. I could tell that I didn't want to watch that new guy, so I watched the first season, then the second season, which is like the prequel. And I disengaged because I knew it wasn't going to be good from there. I could tell. I could see it.
Yeah,
the writing was on the wall. The man died.
It ended really bad. Like, and the fight scenes that I enjoyed the fight scenes in the beginning. It was a different way to do videography around a fight. By the end, they just took it. It was like, all right, there's trouble. And they all start moving in slow-mo with blood splatters on the screen. And it got super bad.
Yeah, it's but for anyone who wants to see like another titty period piece, my goodness, seasons 1 and 2 of Spartacus, you'll never see as much cock and titty in a regular TV show ever. I think Showtime made it. Real good show, but
it's got Cinemax vibes.
Yeah, it's got I'm spacing out her name, but fucking Xena is in their top.
Lucy Lawless, am I right?
Lucy Lawless, New Zealand actress. Yeah,
man, that sucks. He died at 39 from cancer.
I thought it was one of the lymphomas,
non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Yeah, that's the bad one, I guess.
I mean, they're both probably bad.
You don't even mind the other kind. You're just like, do I have that too?
Do I have that too? Oh, rats! I've got lymphoma.
Not again.
It's going to ruin my weekend.
I have seasonal lymphoma.
Seasonal lymphoma.
It really flares up around the springtime.
Seasonal affective lymphoma. I get in a bad mood and die.
No, that guy was pretty cool. I don't recall his name. I do remember though that at the height of that show, I was Spartacus is a great show, and then he was in a Freddie W video, which is really cool. You know, another historical thing that I've recently kind of come full circle on is Christopher Columbus. You know, like I don't know why I was so pro Christopher Columbus, but he was an absolute monster, just a horrible human being.
Somebody was saying that recently. Was it Neil Tyson? NGT, whatever his name is.
I don't know.
Okay, what did you learn? Because I didn't follow through and read it all.
I was rewatching The Sopranos recently, and there's a whole episode around it, and so I started doing a lot of research. he would be tried for war for crimes against humanity today. He was enslaving, taking the natives as sex slaves. He was cutting off the hands of any of the men above a certain age so they couldn't like do war against him. Like his own quotes are something like, with 50 men, we could subjugate them and have them do our bidding or something, something in 1500s talk. He was an absolute monster. He was a slave trading, genocidal boat captain who was out for profit.
The thing about like anyone like that is I feel like you almost have to judge it by the times. Because when you phrase it that way, like, of course, we all know that's terrible. But like when you say it like that, it's like, do you think all the other captains out there were like, this Columbus guy, look at how far he's going, this is getting out of control? Like, they were all shitheads.
That's just
stealing
how you
people,
ran a tight
raping
ship.
people.
When they
like,
said
they
running a tight ship, they were talking about the tourniquet on the wrist. Tight.
Look this up, guys. This is true.
Yeah, I have no problem with looking at it within the context of the times. George Washington owned slaves, right? But
yeah,
don't raise this guy up to be a hero. Don't have a like. Don't act like Columbus Day is something to be necessarily proud of. I mean, he was the captain of the ship that made its way here. And if I remember correctly, I hope I'm not confusing him with a different like explorer. There was some kind of a bonus that would be paid to the first person who laid eyes on the like new territory or something like that, like from I don't know, the government back home, the Spanish government, like whichever sailor sees the rock first, he gets like a pension is what it amounted to. And some guy was like, land ho, and Christopher Columbus was like, no, I'm gonna see it in like 2 days, and like he took the pension. Fuck that guy. Just raping, murdering, enslaving.
See, the only way I'm okay with us getting rid of Columbus Day is if it's immediately replaced by another day that we also get off. I will not be a member of I don't care if we get a fucking Genghis Khan Day, like Attila the Hun Day. I don't care, as long as it still gives you the day off. I'm fine. But what I will not stand for is people coming in and stealing our days off under these social justice pretenses. If you're gonna, like Woody says, if you're gonna have an idea, if you're gonna say nay, you got to have a pro for it too. So you can't just show up and say no more Columbus Day. You have to say we're gonna have XYZ Day.
I have a pitch.
Everybody, you still get the day off.
I have a pitch for you, Taylor. I think you'll like it.
Okay.
We'll get rid of Columbus Day and we will replace it with a floating holiday of your choice.
A floating holiday.
Mm-hmm. Any day of the year, take it.
Oh, this is way better.
Yeah, right? Always.
Okay, you know what? New plan. Get rid of all the holidays and turn them all into float days, except for Christmas and Thanksgiving and the real, like the trifecta. Thanksgiving,
New Year's.
Christmas, New Year's, that little triage there.
Dude,
but
let's
get something going. This
35
is a better idea.
when I realized what a bunch of horseshit the holiday season is, right? Like Christmas, I was like, oh my God, there's 365 days a year. We get 6 off over the course of 3 months. And this is the holiday season? This is like the big thing, the big doodah that we all get together on. Like, can you believe how great we have it? We get 6 days off out of 90. This is incredible. It's not incredible. It's horseshit. It sucks. You have low standards if you like the holiday season.
What are some of the holidays that we could get rid of and move around like float days? We can get rid of Columbus Day. We can get rid of President's Day. We can get rid of
but hang on,
let's move Memorial Day around.
Let's leave that where it.
I didn't think about that. That one should probably stay where it is.
Are you disrespecting the flag, Taylor? My God, you fucking Nike wearing Memorial Day.
I'm kneeling right now.
It needs to be one of the ones that we actually get a federal holiday, right? What are the federal holidays? Let's pull up a list of that because like
a lot of them are shit.
No, it's not as many as I thought. So we have New Year's Day. We have Martin Luther King Jr., Washington Birthday, which is also President's Day, Memorial, Independence, Labor, Columbus, Veterans, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. I don't think I got all these off. I never got Veterans Day off. I don't think I got Columbus Day off.
All right. I say we keep all the days off. We keep Christmas, Thanksgiving, veterans, you're gonna have to pick Veterans Day or Memorial Day, because one of those we're getting a float day for one of them. You get one of those, and Independence Day, because that wouldn't make any sense to not do that then. But like George Washington's birthday.
Hang on a goddamn minute. You leave George Washington alone. He is my favorite president.
I'm not. I don't dislike him. I just want the day. You know what? If I were to speak to George right now and say, hey, we all respect the hell out of you. You're still like ranked number 1 by a lot of people, and we've got a lot of presidents. So you fucking killed it. I wouldn't say that, but would you mind if we used your federal holiday of a birthday and we kind of made it like a float day, like moved it around? He won't care. He wouldn't care. He would like talk about how to be wary of the redcoats and things that aren't relevant anymore. And I'd be like, oh my God, like we totally hosed those guys in World War II, took most of their empire by giving them loans so they could fight. It was great. You would have loved it, George.
Lend-Lease program, yeah.
Yeah, and he wouldn't mind. So Kyle, I think you're on the wrong side here. I think you're thinking George would have been offended. No way.
It's about what George would want. Because
it's his birthday.
He doesn't. All right, fine. I guess if we could ask George, I would be okay with whatever he decided. But I won't allow you to put words in George Washington's mouth.
I think I represent him well.
I don't think you need a new accent.
Okay, Kyle, which are the ones that we can't move? That we can't move.
The ones that we.
Like, you're Mr. Strict over here.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, Independence.
Honestly, this is a good. I feel like we've got it really well narrowed down. I mean, honestly, I don't feel like Martin Luther King Jr. is as important as the rest of them. He seems least important to me, but I definitely think he deserves his day. But I mean, like
New Year's.
That's
you know what it is. I'm a
pants on head retarded.
Yeah, I can explain why that happened to me. It's already near Christmas. I usually don't desperately need a day off, and I don't drink on New Year's Eve, so I'm not like, oh my God, I so need the first off. But
it's the only holiday that's actually about a chronological event, though. Like it's the one that
they're all
cannot,
chronological
by
events.
definition. No, like most of them are made up.
My birthday is a chronological event.
Okay, fair enough, but we can celebrate.
I think what Kyle's saying mainly is like this is a date by which like businesses are making decisions on, like setting those their different.
New Year's Day is like it doesn't. We can't just decide when it is. It's like it's fucking.
Rename it Float Day.
Float Day.
All right, so Kyle, you're saying we keep Christmas, Thanksgiving, Independence Day, and then the veterans got to vote on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, which one stays, and then Columbus, Labor, Memorial, or Veterans.
Frankly,
Washington,
I don't know the difference between
MLK.
Memorial.
They all go, but New Year's stays as well.
So I guess Veterans Day is for people who survived being in war, and Memorial Day is for those who did not.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
I've never broken it down like that, but that makes sense.
I never considered it really.
What if Veterans Day is for people who did and didn't survive, and Memorial is just for the didn't? As the subset group, that's the one we should get rid of.
Yeah.
I think the ones I don't know. I think the ones that died deserve at least one full day of their own.
But the ones that died are also veterans.
By the time we're going to be through this list, you're going to want all the holidays in the same place. You're gonna...
All right.
I think we need to expand. Like throw Arbor Day in there, Earth Day.
It's making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Pretzel Day.
It's too bad like every president doesn't get their birthday off. Or that we don't get presidents' birthdays off. That'd be pretty dope.
I would choose presidents based on their birthday. Be like, we're really weak in August. We had any August candidates running? You don't get shit off in August.
What party are you looking for? It doesn't matter. It won't matter enough in my life. It's just.
You'll all agree with this. Fucking voting day. Presidential voting day should be the day fucking off. Federal holiday. Although, all you leave fucking liberal cocksuckers out there who are getting all, yeah!
They don't have jobs. There's a hole in your theory.
Voter ID law is mandatory if we do that. All right.
Yeah, I was going to bring up voting day, but I didn't want to go politics.
You're never going to get pushback from me, Kyle, on we should get this day off. I'm like, no!
I'm on your team with that one.
Yeah.
No, I do like the idea of voting day off. I don't know how much it would impact voting.
Still be nice, though.
I think it would impact it quite
Most people would treat it just like a day off. Like I think that people would picture a huge resurgence in voting, like patterns and volume, but I don't think we would. I think that there is just a percentage of people, naturally or whatever, that just don't care, like just apolitical. Like if you just use like social media to try and gauge people, you're like, man, there's like 50% of people on this, 50% of people on this, and they don't like each other. And it's like, no, really, there's a huge swath of people out there who don't fucking care. They watch entertainment shows, they watch sports, they don't let it, like those people probably aren't going to vote just because they get the day off. They'll be like, hell yeah, day off.
Maybe this is a silly question, but like as an American, like I see the whole thing, like the UK, like I've seen that graphic where it's like, oh, here's the UK, here's Great Britain, here's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know Scotland and Ireland, not too fond of England in a lot of ways. Is there any bad blood between the Irish and the Scottish, or are you guys kind of like, hey, we're in this together somewhat?
Well, Scottish Catholics and Irish Catholics get along. We're essentially ethnically and culturally the same. Scottish Protestants and Irish Protestants get along. Same thing. Apart from basically the Catholics hate the Protestants and the Scots hate and love the Irish. It just depends. But there's a lot of weird shit that most people don't know about. Like we've got segregated schools. We've got Catholic schools and we've got Protestant schools. I'm sorry, you're not supposed to call them Protestant schools. They're called non-denominational schools, but they're Protestant schools. Yeah.
What is so? As an outsider, this seems like a very silly and mild thing to disagree over, right? What kind of Christian you are? You're all Christians, right? Like that's
very different.
It goes a lot deeper.
What is the difference? Like culturally, you live in the same places. You have the same blood in you. You look the same. You talk the same. What are you angry about?
It's a case of Catholics, believe in God and believe in the Pope. They like the Pope and see the Pope as the messenger of God. Protestants see whatever king or queen they have as sort of like the Pope. They are the messenger of God. In some cases, they are God. Now, the Protestants loved the royal family, and the royal family decided to go in and fuck Ireland up. Right? So that's the problem. And then also they took a big chunk of it in like the Northeast. And the Irish didn't like that. It turns out people don't like being invaded.
Yeah.
Let me repeat this back and see if I have it right. Yeah. It's not actually about being Catholic or Protestant. It could be orange hats and green hats. The problem is that historically, orange hats and green hats have never treated each other nicely.
No,
it's not about. You got to look at the core differences are huge, though, right? It was Martin Luther, right, who nailed the shit to the church and separated. And the whole idea is the Catholic Church is set up to be this fucking oligarchy, right, with these priests and these popes between you and God.
Yeah.
And the Protestants are saying that is a scam. They have set up a business between you and God. You can talk to God without paying a guy to handle the switchboard. Okay. Anytime you want to talk to the creator of the universe, look up and start talking. You don't need to pay that guy. Oh, and by the way, you also can't pay him when you go off and steal and rape and murder and pillage. You can't buy, a plea from your sins with God. You have to talk to him about that. Not a guy here. Huge difference, and I don't know. Was it 1,000 years of people fighting and dying over it?
No, you hit the religious differences there. Like you hit a big one right on the head. If you believe that with like your whole heart, that's a huge difference of like basically one party saying like, that's why the church hated Luther so much. Cause looking back, you go, oh, he nailed some edicts to the door, whatever. But it was basically him saying, you're all frauds. You're all scam artists. Everyone. Hey, I'm the James Randi of hundreds of years ago. I'm calling bullshit on this. And of course, the Catholics are like, it's not just that Luther they hated everyone who was attempting, in their view, to subvert the influence.
The guy who proves psychics were fake?
Yeah.
Okay. I do know him.
Yeah.
Zach,
let me get my baby powder out real quick. Yeah. You see the guy start sweating.
The old James Randi clips where he tricks those magicians are so fucking funny. So good.
I'm sorry. I just didn't think everyone got your reference.
Oh yeah,
I didn't, and I appreciate you. You get me there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that would be the best gig on earth. Just being the guy in the 70s who was like,
all of these magicians are fake. I'm gonna make that my gig, disproving a 70s magician who never looked anything up online. That's James Randi. That's the wizard himself.
Didn't one of the guys that he
That's not how I
disproved like
remember him.
go on to become like a fucking child murderer or something like that?
I mean, he just proved so many that after a while.
Yeah, I think it was the guy that done the phone book.
What
that he's
happened
like,
to
I
his
can make the
pinky?
page of the phone
It looks
book
like it
turn.
withered. It looks like a gypsy put a curse on him. So maybe there is
he's
magic.
probably a fucking 100 years old. Here, he looks, Gandalf mode. Look how big the nose is. It's like
Gandalf
growing.
the Black.
Have you seen two hobbits?
That guy's so fucking old. I watched a new movie last night. I've been on
Magic's a lot of shit, Frodo. It's not real.
It's not real, Frodo. Stop being a sucker.
LED light, Frodo. Got it off Amazon.
He's blowing out of his nose onto the book, Frodo. Put a bit of styrofoam and prove him a charlatan.
What is this?
Mayan ball game, a deadly sport. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember learning about that during like history class and all that stuff.
Yeah, same. I had a really cool history teacher who like that's the sort of stuff that he would use to like teach us history. Like when it came to I remember that story really well because he would get really passionate when he would tell us the stories. And the Spartans, like the most fascinating thing ever from history to me is the Spartans, because he would just go in long in depth about the training of a Spartan boy. And when he was 7, he was taken from his family and put in the barracks. And he was just talking about the training day in and day out and how they were starved and not given enough food, so they had to steal to have enough food. But if you got caught stealing, you were beaten mercilessly. Yeah, all that crazy shit. Man, the Spartans were some terrifying motherfuckers.
They were. I rewatched 300 recently.
That's what I was like thinking. I'm like, I gotta watch that movie again.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix. Yeah.
All right.
Very motivating.
Yeah, whenever I saw that movie was coming out, I immediately thought back to Mr. White's class back in like 10th grade. Like, oh shit, this is what I've always wanted to see, was those badass motherfuckers that Mr. White used to talk about. And the movie kind of lived up to it. I know it's really stylized and everything, but like, shit, that was so ahead of its time with all the CGI and stuff. Like, I love 300.
The sequel wasn't that good.
So I was about to say the sequel was real really dog shit with Eva Green. You got the Eva Green sex scene, which almost redeemed it, but still, no. That guy's riding the horse across the boats. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
most unrealistic shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, like, and there was a high bar for unrealistic from the first one.
Yeah,
because like one time they're like, and Xerxes was angry with his generals and he disciplined them. And there's that like crab man with like his arms removed, and he's morbidly obese, and he's got nose rings, and he's got just a big, like Scyther, the Pokemon, thing on his hand. He just chops the guy's head off. And so I'm like, all right, I'm willing to take this. I doubt the Persians had morbidly obese crab men.
Look, it's Mobius, the unwashed.
The unwashed.
That guy's never.
Mobius, that guy has the stinky. Yeah.
That guy has not wiped his ass in a coon's age, right?
I still remember, like part of that movie that's like, imprinted on my memory is like when that big fat guy goes, lifts his fucking arm up to do the chop. Mm-hmm. Like you see his armpit, and it's like no hair, like the way a really fat old woman's armpit would look.
The friction.
And I always think like you could have just smothered the general in that, and he would have never made a mistake. You didn't have to kill him.
Like, you only got to kill one. The others are so horrified.
I learned your lesson. Yeah,
I will go into battle myself, my lord. Please put me on the front lines. Don't give me the armpit squisher.
Not again.
Yeah, that's a great fucking movie. The CGI is good. I like, I can't think of his name, Ephialtes or whatever, the hunchback that like fucking betrays him.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I felt like Leonidas was a little shitty for not letting that guy, join the unit, because he's like, we fought with his Scottish fucking accent. We fought as a unit. One continuous unit, and then you see them fight, and they're all like spiraling and doing barrel rolls and like jumping out of formation and going like ham, just running through the. It's like, wait a minute, that hunchback could have been the tip of the spear out there. Who cares if he goes down?
You've been like, all right, Ephialtes out there, still you're fighting out there with us, the Spartans. You know, he's doing that accent.
Yeah, pump him
and that's
up.
what he's saying, where he's like, you know, you're right about that. I never noticed the Scottish, you know, Sean Connery accent. Where he's like, thigh to neck. Unless you feel like running out there and getting your spear wet with some Persian blood, or hitting a woman you see who eyes you. Like that. Yeah, like, oh man, that's such a good movie.
Yeah. I fucking love that shit. And,
I'm watching that on Sunday when I'm hungover after St. Patty's.
I remember I got the DVD right when it came out, and in the special features, it shows them doing like their workout to like get in shape. And they're doing a lot of CrossFit stuff or like esque stuff. Like, you know, they're doing a lot of flipping of the big heavy tires, a lot of rope pulling, and a lot of resistance band sprints and parachute sprints and stuff like that. And really high tempo stuff where they've got like, they're working out as a group, like maybe 8 or 10 of them at a time. And they got a guy just fucking drilling them, just go, 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 go. And then of course they airbrush their abs on. There's no way Gerard Butler was not on some sort of performance enhancing drugs to get in shape for that movie, right? Like him, like when I see fucking what's his name that plays Wolverine, like those are not guys that traditionally had that much mass on them. Hugh Jacked man. Like he's definitely on something.
I mean, if you have to get that ripped for a role,
yeah,
you only have I don't know how long to prepare for that stuff, but like it seems like you kind of need a little bit of assistance, right?
You know who the originals at that were that almost certainly did it clean? Fucking Kurt Russell in Soldier. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He worked out for like 14 months leading up to that. They were like, we want you to play an action star, and he'd never really done that before. And he's like, well, I need a year. I need at least a year to like get in shape. And he's in excellent fucking shape in that movie. He looks great. And then Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, she did the same fucking thing, and she's scary ripped, especially for like that time period and a female actress. I mean, all actresses are female. Well, most actresses are female, but
she's in very good shape in this. I'm just looking at pictures, and Kurt Russell in that. Jesus, his arms are like bodybuilder size big.
Yeah, that
shirt doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, they got him in a super. It's like, the Army not have any larges, Kurt? Like what's going on over there? Like only mediums for your group.
Private Kurt, do you want small or extra small?
Extra small and wash it twice, sir.
Holy shit! This picture that Chiz just linked of Hugh Jackman in 2000 versus 2013. It looks like the 2000 version is a shitty clone of the 2013.
Right.
Oh my God.
He's got those, like, I don't even know what that muscle's called, like those striations you get on the side of your stomach near your
obliques.
His obliques are out of control.
I mean, Taylor, I think you're in better shape than 2000 Hugh Jackman.
I'm in better shape than 2000 Hugh Jackman right there. I think
it's
he's
a little
clearly sucking in right there.
Yeah, but see, you got to keep in mind that's what Fox released, right? Like this is like him on camera on his best day, like leaning out, leaning out, probably even getting a pump right before he goes on camera, which is what they usually do. And this is tippy top him at that day. I mean, it's not even close.
Times have changed, man. You know, times have changed. The drugs have gotten better. Photoshop is better. You know,
it looks like he actually became a mutant in those 13 years.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Is a hammer better at anything than an axe?
Nails.
They got armor.
I knew nails was coming as soon as it left my mouth.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they're wearing armor.
You think it's better with armor? Because it's just weight based at that point, right? Would an axe hit just as hard if it was the same weight?
Yeah, if it was the same weight, but you'd need an enormous axe to make the same weight as a hammer, you know. I think those war hammers were blunt on one side and pointy on the other, and they were meant to like pierce through.
Oh, if they're spiky on the other side. I think I like that side for hitting people.
Yeah, it depends what they're wearing, right? Or where you're hitting them. You hit them in the head, you use that blunt side because it doesn't matter. You're fucking
hit them with any side.
Killing them. You hit them with either side. Yeah, it's not gonna go well.
I would not have if I was in like medieval war or whatever. I don't know like how much of an option you received on like what class of weapon you got. They probably just assigned you bullshit, like a pitchfork if you were poor or a serf. But I would not want to go with a war hammer. That
I think
seems
you
like
brought your own weapon. I don't know. Maybe I meant this up in my own head. Kyle?
So
Tell me how
wait,
close I
it
come.
depends what war and what like age we're talking about,
Yeah,
right? Like we're
sure.
talking about like the English, for example, like medieval times, or like when they're fighting the Scottish, right? Like they had a professional army at that point when they're fighting the Scots, and you had like longbow archers, you had cavalry, and you had swordsmen, but mostly archers and cavalry.
Because I think maybe the Scots are the side I'm thinking of,
Oh,
where they
yeah.
just bring like
Peasant
farm,
farming.
like I use a torch, I use a pitchfork. Why did you choose a
Oh, it's
pitchfork?
bought his stick I found. I rubbed a bit of dog shit on it.
That'll scare it.
The English hate dog shit. Seriously though, I would hate to have to fight a man with a pointy stick with dog shit on it in medieval times. It's instant death. It's instant death.
I would be Nick Diaz in that situation. I'd be like, I'm insulted that you brought a pointy stick with dog shit to the fight.
I would be so terrified by a hairy Scotsman with a pointy stick covered in dog shit. Like that sounds so scary.
But you in this scenario, you're an Englishman on what ends up being the winning side of that fight. So you would probably have like chainmail at least, right? Something to keep the poo stick away.
The poo stick. I think that shit's expensive. I think that shit was real fucking expensive for the
Dog
time.
poo, it's free. It's everywhere. You can just take it. Kyle, if you need some, I gotta hook up. I have Great Danes.
Hook you up. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the age you're talking about, and the army you're talking about. It was all different. But yeah, there were definitely some of those armies that were just like, bring whatever you got. We got to go. And then there were those armies that were like, yeah, everybody gets a gladius. They're all made to order, like the Romans, for example. You know, they all had those fucking. I don't know how long they were, but they're short. Those swords they used.
Short
the gladius.
swords, yeah. And they had like, I have a book about like the kind of the like tiered organization of the Roman military, like throughout the ages, and it's like wild how it wasn't until like thousands of years later that humanity got back to like that level of complexity and warfare, where like you'll read about like fucking battles in like the year 1100 and it's like, oh well, that's fucking at, you know, being generous, like 700 years, you know, from the fall of Rome-ish. That obviously wasn't Rome's peak, the fall. Still not even close. Like just
But
like bullshit tactics, not nearly as advanced.
Okay. Counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure bullshit non-advanced tactics are worse? Like, let's name all the guerrilla warfare that is lost.
Well, that's different. That's completely different. Like the Romans would conquer countries, right? Like guerrilla warfare is its own its own animal. Like they had that's the whole problem they had with Hannibal. You know, like coming over the mountains with the fucking elephant, and shit, the Carthaginian. But whenever they would face someone, the Romans, just the way they broke down their army, right, like, in a very modern kind of way, we really copy the way that they broke their army down into segments and smaller groups and everything.
Yeah,
and the way they equipped their army was the way you equip a professional army in modern times. Like nobody's going into the Marine Corps and like, hey, what kind of gun did you bring? I got my daddy's 30-06. Oh, that's cool. I got a shotgun. We've been like nobody's
22.
No.
It was literally like
we all get an M4. Like we all get the same ammo. Like, and
this
that's what the
army
Romans
you're
did.
describing lost in Vietnam, right? And I was listening to a soldier tell stories about his Vietnam experience, and you know, he gets to Vietnam and he's really surprised they're not like throwing rose petals at him and stuff. Like he's there to liberate them from the bad guys, and he was invisible. He didn't get any attention. He didn't get any love.
Yeah.
And then what happens is like he's like, we would see like 2 soldiers a month. Meanwhile, we would take like 75, 80 casualties a week.
Mm-hmm.
And before long, it's just we don't know who the bad guys even are. They're all of them. All of them. Everyone who looks Vietnamese is a bad guy because someone's killing my men. Mm-hmm. So like one guy looks at him sideways from a village and they call in an airstrike and burn the whole village. And you know, that's just the relationship we have with everybody now. But that village won, right? That we ended up.
Well, not that one in particular, but
but the village, the guerrilla
Yeah.
warfare, they
Hard
can't
to
like
beat.
conquer anything. They can defend, but they can't conquer.
Yeah, and that was like kind of the difference. And I think what Kyle and I was saying with the Roman army, like Rome was the first like giant empire that actually had a standing army. Like
What about
every
the
empire.
Revolutionary War. Like,
Well, that
aren't
was
those
way
kind of
after
guerrilla
Rome.
tactics that. Okay, I'm aware.
Well, that's defense again, right? Like they're defending what's essentially their homeland against what's
Like,
essentially
the reason
a
Rome
foreign
did so
invader.
well was because of organization, and because like when Rome sent in legionnaires, that was that guy's job. He was a fighter, and like he'd walk into some Germanic area that they were looking to conquer, and all the German tribes were like, fuck it, that guy had grab an axe, you know, you're a butcher, grab a cleaver, like, and that's why they were so good at conquering. And also they were way better than we are at utilizing our military, like just raw force of labor. Because when the Roman army wasn't off conquering and fighting, and they would shift out constantly to keep fresh people in, like they would go build roads. And what did those roads do? They made it so they could transport their army and like all their resources faster than any empire in world history across the fucking Mediterranean, so they could respond so quickly.
So I'm not sure about the Romans, but like Genghis Khan did very well because being conquered wasn't so bad. Suddenly they went from like some sort of royalty-based family system to a meritocracy. And you know, if you got conquered by Genghis Khan, then, you know, you might be better off than you were beforehand.
Genghis Khan gave you two options, just like the Hittites would. And one of them was being conquered, and the other, one of them was surrendering, and the other was always horrific. It was always just horrific. But
the thing is, surrendering wasn't bad.
Surrender
like, your life
wasn't
might
bad.
be better off if you surrender. He could come in there, and now you get free healthcare.
That was true of the Romans as well,
right?
I mean, lots of Visigoths
than their organizational structure.
Yeah, plenty of Visigoths and Celts, I'm sure, were just like, yeah, it sounds like a deal. You guys have roads, huh? That's cool. What kind of gods you got? Interesting. But
and they would give them jobs. They'd be like, oh, you'll be an auxiliary force in the Roman army, so you'll get like a little bit of money too. Yeah. And it's our currency, and we're the
warfare
biggest
throughout the
power.
ages is really fascinating. There's so many good YouTube channels for that. I watch hours of that shit. I like that stuff a lot. Yeah, Genghis Khan was a scary fucker. Just real brutal stuff. The boiling of people alive and crushing them with weights and stuff slowly, and just all sorts of just really gruesome tactics.
All of our execution methods seem pretty, you know, generous and nice compared to what they did back in the day with like crucifixion and the bronze bull and what was it?
What's the bronze bull?
That's where you go ahead.
So they had this big bronze bull, and they would put a person inside of it. It's hollow, and
like
it was
the one
made
in Wall Street, kind of like the
just like that, except they'd make a fire underneath it to slowly cook you alive, and your screaming would be projected through the nostrils of the bull, and it would sound like a bull roaring, because bulls like coming through, like almost like making a wind instrument out of the oven that was cooking you.
Good golly. Now, a lot of these at least some of these tortures you find out are just kind of rumors and didn't happen. Did this
Very
happen?
true.
This happened, yeah.
There was some like the Iron Maiden that was like made up.
That's the
one where it's like the scary, like, oh, they put you in this casket and then they closed the spikes on you. And it was just kind of instant and messy, I guess, like a huge pain in the ass for the executioner. But this other one is called scaphism. It's from
we've done the boats many times.
Oh, we've done that. Okay, scaphism's fucked up. I'm trying to find this fucking photo I saw earlier. Oh, fucking Christ, where is it? It was, you know what the breaking wheel is?
Yeah.
I think so.
So it's a torture device that would obviously, they put you on this wheel and they turn you around and break you. And I'm trying to find this photo of this skeleton from, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, obviously, that was executed in that manner. And it shows his skeleton on display, and you can see all of the bone breaks as he was on it. Let me fucking find. God damn it!
I think I got you.
Oh, that sounds awful.
And yes, there it is. Look at that. Isn't that fucked up? You can see the clean breaks in both his arms, both his legs, and not just the legs.
Look at the ribs. Look how many pieces those ribs are in.
I didn't even notice that until you said it. And then the spine in that area surrounding where the ribs come out is just pulverized.
Wrecked, yeah. Is his skull cracked? Right by the temple?
Maybe. I don't know. I thought the breaking wheel was more of a limb thing. But
right? They really put this guy through the ringer. Jesus Christ.
You literally did. Like, you can see the clean breaks in his forearms, his upper arm, his lower leg, his upper leg. Like, this looks just, I was going to say just shoot him. Well, yeah, just shoot him with an arrow right through the eye socket. Unless this guy was like a pedophile, in which case this probably did a good bit to discourage pedophilia. Like, wouldn't like
the message?
If there was some
work?
Like, well, it works.
Do they stretch him?
I'm not looking this up. I'm going to say this from memory. The execution wheel was typically a large wooden spoked wheel, the same used on a wooden transport cart and carriages. To this end, the executioner dropped.
The wheel was made to revolve slowly, and a large hammer or an iron bar was then applied to the limb or over the gaps between the beams. So they just hammered them as they spun them around, right?
Oh, this looks awful.
The wheel revolves slowly, and then a large hammer or iron bar was applied to the limb. I don't know how you apply a hammer to a limb, but
very carefully, I'm sure.
This is like Game of Thrones flayed man banner shit. This is we have to click it, I guess, and then scroll down, and you'll see St. Catherine's College in Oxford has 4 breaking wheels on their emblem. On their on your banners.
On your banners. Interesting. And who is this?
St. Catherine's College in Oxford.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it is fucked up. Well, I guess we use crosses a lot.
I guess.
But that's also a little different. Yeah.
It's kind of low tech. I guess I thought it'd be more inventive, the breaking wheel. But they just strapped a guy to a wheel and hit him as he turned around. You didn't really need a wheel for that. You could have just walked around him while you hit him.
Here is the plan. We put him on the wheel. We turn it, and we hit him with pipe.
Right?
The wheel itself doesn't break him. No, it is the pipe mostly. It is more of a carnival ride without the pipe addition. I lobbied to have it called General Pipe Attack Torture. That was shut down by a eccentric king.
Here's a picture of how it works. In case you had any struggle.
Just a guy. Well, you attach him to the wheel, and this guy just wails on you. And you want to make sure this is like seeing a live UFC fight. Nobody in the audience knows what's going on because they're elevated. Not very good showmanship. And then that guy with the cross is like, "Yeah, there's no salvation for you."
Right?
This man's pipe.
So nowadays, the church is supposed to be kind of a benevolent organization, right? They're supposed to be the good guys. Did they even pretend to be the good guys back in the day when they were doing this? Did the church try to have the moral high ground, or were they just another army? Another force?
But, of course they did. Yeah, they wanted to have the moral high ground. But they were also just so powerful. And I think a lot of their power stemmed not from, they did have armies and stuff, but a lot of it was because the common person all believed them. And so to have the Pope say something negative about the King of France or whatever would effectively cause a lot of religious, serfs or whatever the fuck in France to be like, whoa. We're religious before we're anything. And the Pope said that? Really? And so the Pope could cause a lot of mischief, a lot of problems. And so that's why so many of those issues between, Britain and France was about currying the favor of whoever the Pope was or whoever the leading bishop of a region, because they, their word held so much, nobody could fucking read. They could be like, oh, this book also says in Revelation that Pope Charles the whatever is evil. And they'd be like, no shit. Wow. I haven't eaten anything but potatoes in my entire life. I believe you. I'm on an all radish diet out of necessity. God, my breath is bad. I'm just drinking weak Britain wine, or no, what was it? It was beer that they drank all day, every day, right? Very low percentage beer, because that was the only way to make sure that you weren't drinking poison. Nonsense. Yeah, just a bunch of parasites and diseases.
Yeah, that's the whole point of grog too.
Yeah, grog. All that grog was adding rum into drinking water, right?
Yeah, but a tiny amount of rum.
That sounds disgusting.
It absolutely does. Every time you drink, it tastes of rum.
Can you imagine
rum to begin with?
Just a hot day on the decks, swabbing the poop deck, executing pirates, normal everyday things, and like then you have to go take a big swig of rum laden water that's hot. It is hot. That sounds awful. Otherwise, I'll just end up rewatching the original Band of Brothers, which is a great thing to rewatch. It's tremendous.
I love Band of Brothers. I'm sorry, cut you off. I super loved it when it came out, but when I watch it now, I'm like, oh, you know what? It turns out that a lot of this isn't the part that I loved about it. Like, I want to say there are 8 episodes, and the last 2 are kind of not World War II anymore. Yeah. And the first 2 are kind of not World War II. They're like training, and we're getting to know the integrity of Captain Winters and stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, when you get back to it, there's really just 2 or 3 great episodes, some of the greatest TV ever made in Band of Brothers, and a whole lot of other stuff.
I'm okay with the beginning. I do agree. The end, it really, the end of any story can. At the end of the Lord of the Rings, it was like felt good to wrap up and give everybody their just, wherever they needed. But in this, it's like, come on, let's kill some more Nazis. Like just a few more. We can find some that won't surrender. Like that's what I want. I want them to be like, hey, winners. They say there's some Nazis up north that don't want to surrender. They say Hitler's still alive. Well,
gotta kill it.
I want to go get those.
The last episode is about like 100%. I don't know, soldiers getting excited and having car accidents or something.
If Band of Brothers were made today, after its huge success, they'd be like, look, we need a season 2. How about they go to Brazil and look for Hitler? And
that would be awful.
They did a season 2, and it was Japan.
Captain Winters, the whole...
Like, honestly, with the Band of Brothers thing, I'm surprising you both like have that same take. Like, I disagree with Woody on the beginning part. I really like when they're like kind of
5 miles up, 5 miles down,
or Ross from Friends and Lieutenant Winters. Like, I really liked that development because it showed them like growing as a group. But you are right. Like the end of the series, it's almost like after they're in Hitler's hideout, the Eagle's Nest or whatever it's called. From there on, it's kind of like, okay, we're kind of meandering now. Whereas I think the end of the Pacific one is the one part that's better than the original, because the end of the Pacific one, the guy goes back and it's like really hammers home like how he's a totally different guy. Like he's changed. He's fucked up now. He will never be able to even engage with people who didn't experience that in a way that's real because they can't possibly empathize with what he's been through. Like, and that was the Pacific series, which overall still solid.
I don't like
not
as
good.
I dislike the Pacific. I made it through it once, and every time I've tried afterwards, I always end up going, "Oh yeah, I don't like this. Oh, yeah, I don't really like this. This isn't fun at all. This is like about the horrors of war." I want to see like come on, give me a little bit of that John Wayne shit. Everybody now wants to be anti-war. Fuck you. No, give me that John Wayne shit. Give me the sad ending if you want. But I want to have some hoorah, blow up the bridge, and fucking, Tom Hanks shooting at the tank, and then the fucking bombers come in. I want some happiness. I want some good times too. They did
make the way scarier than the Nazis, as far as like the implication of like, you don't want to get captured by these Japanese. They'll saw your hands off and fucking inject shit in. Like they.
No, I think that's the case.
The stakes seem high.
I think that if the Germans took you captured, like whenever I'll say this, whenever I see a movie of a German prison camp and there's some Americans in it, they're like sassing the commandant and like wearing a leather jacket or something. Like, and the commandant is like, "I will only let you go so far, Kruger." And it's like, dude, the guy's got like doo-wop hair over there and a leather jacket on. How much farther are you gonna let it? It always seems like it's not so bad in the Nazi prison camps for the Americans. They're like shot down
for the soldiers.
The soldiers. But on the other hand, like I feel like the Japanese were just real awful pieces of shit. They're just scum.
Yeah,
and I was watching a great thing about the Japanese Zero today, and about how technologically advanced it was for its time. How the kill ratio was 12-1 in the Pacific.
Weren't they mostly just crashing it?
No. That's at the very end of the war. At the end of the war, when they didn't have any other way of, it was the last resort sort of thing. The
Those
Japanese
Zeros do
Zero,
look really cool.
the Zero outperformed everything it fought in the Pacific with a kill ratio of 12-1 in the early years.
No.
Yes. The Air Force manual said to go to high altitude, to do a passing run on them, and then to go as fast and low as you could to escape, or you will die. Because they could not fight them at all. They would lose every dogfight at a ratio of 12-1. Yes. It was
I had no idea we were getting wrecked.
It was so much better than anything the world had ever seen. The reports that came out of China, because the war for the Japanese began there, were that they were just shitting on them. And everybody in the West thought it was just exaggerations. They're like, yeah, the Chinese have biplanes. Of course they're getting shit on. But no, when they started fighting, they were getting destroyed. It was only after they captured a Zero and they were able to understand like how it was made and the things it was sacrificing to do all the things that I'm describing, to be so maneuverable, to have a 500-mile range. I think it was sacrificing a lot. It didn't have any armor. It was like a millimeter thick, the outside skin.
It was just too quick to hit for the guys.
It was too maneuverable, and it weighed like 2,000 pounds less than the American plane that was its counterpart, so it could just outmaneuver them at low speeds. So the doctor
12-1. That's a horrible ratio.
Yeah, that's not good. That's
for the first
that's a real shit show.
We were losing that bad for years.
Yeah.
Damn. I never
in the air.
Huh. Well, yeah,
in the air and
that's
dogfights.
important on the Pacific.
I suppose so. It was mostly carrier battles, but they were sinking ships too with other kinds of aircraft. No, it was really interesting because I think Howard Hughes, the piece of shit that he was like, clearly it's a stolen design of the Howard Hughes Speedcraft that I designed, of course. And like finally they captured one, right? Like because the Japanese doctrine was if your plane is going down, it should go down as hard as possible. It should be destroyed. If you can, burn it. The thing that sparked the whole Japanese internment camp movement, the like case they used was where after Pearl Harbor, one of those planes crashed on one of the islands. The way news went in those days, the locals didn't immediately know that there was a World War II had begun about Pearl Harbor. But long story short, some Japanese natives on that island allowed that pilot to escape custody, burn his plane, and shoot a couple of the natives there, injuring them in the whole process. And so they used that Japanese couple as the scapegoat, if you will, for the whole Japanese internment camp thing. But yeah, they finally captured one, and they saw how that one, like a single hit would destroy it. Just a lucky hit would. And they also saw that, I guess it wasn't very maneuverable at high speeds because it didn't have any hydraulics. It was,
so
sacrificing that.
What did the Americans in their existing planes do? Because they couldn't just be like, all right, shoot more accurately. Like, did they have to immediately go back to the drawing board, design a new plane kind of like the Zero, and then put the Americans in there?
Well, they had to change their tactics right away. Like I said, they could fly at a high. The Japanese Zero could climb to 33,000 feet or so, 34,000, 10,000 meters, and it could do it extremely fast. The American tactic was to stay high and to do one run as you like dove through the Japanese and then flee because their top speed was faster. If they dogfight, they were just going to die. And later they had better planes.
Back in World War II, we were just not the power we are like we were later. Like,
we'll see.
Like we were getting owned by the German tanks in Europe at the same time, right?
So we had to like a potential fight with China, because I agree with what you're saying. Like we went in there and we didn't have the technology advantage. What we had was a manufacturing advantage.
Yeah.
And over time, we even had a technology advantage. I think Kyle was about to explain that as the new planes came in, the Spitfire, etc., we were better than the Zero. And that happened after 1942. Like, I think better Spitfires.
The Zero wasn't getting better every year. What the Zero was holy shit, you are 10 years ahead of your time when it matters. You have peaked on the tech tree in this one little area. Right when you needed it, and they just shit on the whole world. But the Americans, they weren't just the Japanese had a system that could produce like 100 good pilots a month or something like that. They only had 550 total Zeros ever, I think, or at their highest number. But because they had that maybe 500-mile range, maybe it was 500 kilometers, really far, they were able to exert their influence on a much larger region with 550 planes than anyone could imagine. So they thought there were thousands of them because it seemed like there were, and they weren't losing a lot of them either.
Yeah. So
it's really interesting. I'm impressed by your guys' World War II plane knowledge.
You gave me too much credit. I was reading the Wikipedia as Kyle was saying it. Everything he says is right.
When you said, I think it was after 1942, I was like, what? Like,
yeah. I had known that for seconds before I said it. But Kyle seemed to know it all. Anyway, if we were to get into a fight with China, would it be the same thing? Would we walk in there with better tanks, better carriers, better airplanes, and then they would have this manufacturing capability that allows them to do to us what we did during World War II?
I mean, they would push our, if it was a manufacturing battle, like they'd push our shit in. Like it's not even close at this point. Like, so we'd have to have a really superior design.
I don't think any. I'm sure someone knows, but I don't think that I'm equipped to even begin to understand what that war would look like. I guess we're fighting over Taiwan, right? So,
if that's
what it is.
Like their backyard.
Oh yeah, we're fighting right there. When the Japanese are going to be there, New Zealand and Australia, the massive Pacific Fleet. Look, I'm always the guy like going "Oorah, American power," because God, we just outspend the rest of y'all 10-1 or some shit. Yeah. I just think
as long as that dollar is the trading currency of oil.
Look, I just think the U.S. is going to win every time because they outspend so much. I just think that when it comes down to it, like our shit'll just be a little better, and there will be more of it. And I don't know that the war is going to devolve to that 1950s thing where it's literally factories pumping out. We need more planes. If we need more planes, that suggests that we're losing planes. That we're losing them at a huge rate. That means we're losing pilots too, right? Like I don't know if
let's
either
say
country
both sides.
I don't think either country is set up to train new air forces full of pilots and get their 5th or 6th generation planes pumped out in a timely fashion. Planes don't work like that anymore.
Well, let me ask you, if there was a country between the US and China that could do that, would it be the US or would it be the country with all the manufacturing and with 5 times our population?
What kind of manufacturing are we talking about, Taylor? Are we talking about building shitty steel? Are we talking about building Chinese cars? Are we talking about building the cutting edge technology that you need to fly under advanced radar systems and deliver laser guided, radar guided bombs precisely and pinpointly to dissolve a country's entire infrastructure?
And to add on to what Kyle's saying, like, also, this is an environment where we're trying to invent new shit, not just copy what America did 5 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea that the U.S. even has the option to like vaporize China's manufacturing districts, like they would do the same thing the Germans did and change and just constantly be switching fucking machineries and shit in all these normal ass manufacturing plants. Like they can't outproduce us in a way that we can't anymore. The U.S.
What are they
needs
producing,
a bunch
though? It goes back to what my question.
Military equipment.
What kind?
Tanks, planes. Any of that shit they can do faster than us. It may not be as good. I'm just saying they absolutely can. And the U.S. depends on China's exports a hell of a lot more than China depends on the U.S.'s imports, which means that the U.S. has a vested interest in not destroying the entire manufacturing economy of China.
Well, I think both sides have economic worries if they go to war with one another. I think it'd be a massive global event, far beyond like the military like might of it all. But I don't know what that war even looks like. I don't think anyone. I think we all. You see what's happening in Ukraine, right? Like nobody knew what that war would look like. It turns out it looks like 21st century World War I all over again. They're in fucking trenches in the snow out there.
I thought Ukraine was going to lose maybe this day. Like they lost the Kiev airport for a few hours, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I thought it was over with that.
You know what? I bet that's a whole fucking movie. I bet the siege and then retaking of that airport is a whole fucking Die Hard-esque movie. Because what it sounds like happens is the Russians landed fucking paratroopers in their capital, captured their airport with what I can only imagine were the baddest James Bond
skeleton crew.
Sylvester Stallone cocksuckers Russia can muster with their night vision on and their fucking hex grid armors or whatever, like landed at the airport, took that shit. And there were some Ukrainians somewhere that got a phone call and they said, hey, the fucking Spetsnaz just took our airport. The country could fall within hours. They're here for the president. And they said, all right, we're on the fucking way. I want to know that guy's story. Like he hopped in the truck with his gun
say it with an accent,
killed those people.
Yeah. Team 6. Like that would be cool.
The seals come out of the back. It's like Russian SEAL Team 6.
They're both here in the water.
maybe like
giving them sardines. Hard as fuck. They got those metal teeth like dude had
like Jaws in
K9s,
007.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm or no, I think most people agree with this. I put a lot more, I guess, respect on China than Russia as far as like capacity and shit. Like I feel like Russia isn't at all equivalent to China. Maybe I'm like being silly.
I think Russia's been a third-rate power for a long time. I think that's being exposed right now.
China's real deal. Have you seen the fucking shit they have their kids doing in school? They're all fit. They're bouncing basketballs and sink.
Taylor, no.
Michael Jackson dance.
Michael Jackson dance. They're thrilling all over the Chinese yards.
It's a problem. I see that as propaganda. I bet if you showed a bunch of Chinese podcasters who were like normally censored and had never seen it before, I bet that if you showed them the fucking crowd at UGA when they start throwing up the letters to spell words out and told them that this was our students and that this was what they're spelling was death to China, and like they'd be fucking scared if they saw 85,000 people fucking spelling shit. Little do they know they're spelling "go dogs," and they couldn't give a fuck less. Oh, we eat dogs.
Oh, we hate dogs. We come to America, we gonna eat all your dogs. We conquer you and then we make you watch when we eat your dog.
The whole football team's scared. Like, it's about us.
If the ATF was a country.
When we do get conquered, I was joking about that, guys, fellas, when we get conquered.
Are you worried about upsetting our 5 Chinese viewers who are using a VPN?
Oh, this is the final straw.
I'll start reading that what was that massacre they had the
Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, I'll start reading the Tiananmen Square wiki. Get y'all all fucking locked out.
I would never do that just to a poor Chinese viewer because they'll get you. Or I guess not from reading it, but they can't look it up.
I haven't seen the video, but somebody was saying that in Rust, they were dealing with Chinese hackers and they're outside their base like screaming in Chinese, and they just started reading that whole Wikipedia article. It's like, I guess removed. Yeah, that's like bad mojo over there. You know, you're gonna be talking about all that. That shit didn't even happen as far as they're concerned. That's like Voldemort's name and the N-word mixed together.
I would also suggest some like cult leaders are often kind of treated as like a hee hee haha, like a goofy. Like, isn't this guy quirky? Like, even if there were murders, it's like, wow, these people were so dumb or whatever. But when you read about like some of the ways that cult leaders indoctrinated people around them, it is depressing. Like Ervil LeBaron, he was one of the guys. He's a lot of people misunderstand LeBaron as being like a founder of Mormonism. He was famous because in the early days of Mormonism, he got kicked out and started like a whole cult separate to Mormonism.
Okay.
He was like a big practicer of polygamy and stuff like that. And what he would do is he had a theory that he pulled out of the Old Testament and he called it blood redemption. I think it's blood redemption, blood sacrilege, something like that. And it was the idea that some people were so sinful in their lives, the only way that they could go to heaven is if they're murdered by righteous people and like a prayer said over them or whatever. So what Ervil would do is if there was like, say he had like, 20 wives or whatever, and say one of the daughters of one of those wives disagreed with him or tried to leave, he would go to the mother of that girl and be like, hey, do you want your daughter to go to heaven? You're going to have to kill her. And like he would talk these poor delusional people into murdering family members because he said it's the only way they could get into the gates. And like reading the testimonies of people who were in that group, oh my word, some of the most terrifying stuff ever. That guy was absolutely evil. But yeah, there's a lot of cult leaders like that who are very messed up.
Who are some other interesting, some other cult leaders? I'm woefully misinformed or uninformed, I guess, on so much of the cult shit. I don't know enough about that. Heaven's Gate is about like the extent of what I've looked into, but that's like
the Beatles of cults. Like, and so like you can't really say like, oh yeah, I'm into cults, and it's like, oh, name 3 cults. Heaven's Gate.
Name their album. Name 3 of their albums.
Yeah,
Go
name
ahead.
3 of their albums, idiot. Oh man, I've been called out. So I need to find a better one. But like you're 1,000,000% right about the whole cult thing of people being smarmy and smug. Like these idiots, they didn't know. It's like
these
people
fools.
who
Look
are
at these
in
people.
like influence circles, cults, like they can't see outside it. By design, all of their interactions and the social cost of disagreement are incorporated into that. If they had a robust system and network of people who weren't involved in that cult, then it would be easier. Like that's why the first step of any cult or like indoctrination is separating you from your family, separating you from your friends, making you believe that nothing can be trusted except for what is said here. And when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who have done the same thing, you know, they've done. Tony, he distanced from his family and his friends, and he hasn't had an issue with it. What's wrong with you? Are you not bought in? Do you not believe what we believe? Like those kind of social
You're not going to let it down, are you? You're not. You're one of us. You're not going to go against it. Yeah, that happens all the time.
You like, pretty much your only friends and family are us now, and you're disappointing us. Like, what's going to happen?
There's this weird misconception, and a lot of it's just because they don't know any better. But there's this misconception a lot of people have that like happy people who were doing well in life join cults, but it's almost never that. It's like I don't know if I've talked about them before. I know it was on a podcast. I don't think it was on PKA. I talked about the Anthill Kids. Did I do this diatribe?
I don't recall the Anthill Kids. No.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
The Anthill Kids were a cult in the 70s. It was either the 60s or 70s. They were led by a guy named Roche Thoreau. Roche, I think it's either Roch or Roche. It's a French name. Roche was a pastor in, I forget what denomination of church. It was some branch of Christianity for
Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes, thank you. Seventh-day Adventist. Before he broke off and then up in French Canada began this farm. And what he would do is he would go to these people in bars. He would pray apparently for women like near like hospitals, like women who had miscarriages. Like he was seeking out people who were in the worst point of their life. And he'd effectively start with the evangelist thing of like, hey, Jesus loves you. Do you want a home? Do you want a community? Mm-hmm. And he started inviting people to this farm he was effectively building up in the mountains. And he did this for years. So for years, it was just a group of people who had nowhere to go. They were completely lost. And then someone offers them food, shelter, and friendship. And it was years of that before it became what it eventually turned into. And that's how people get indoctrinated to the point that they join and become a part of a cult. It's not just like, and I want to be abused by, some charismatic figure. But like Roche was... It was a very slow decline. The first step of it, I believe, is he started having them do labor. Like, okay, you go work and I'll stay here and run things. And people were like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, hey, do you care to help build like the houses around here? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it started to be like, I think I need to have children with the women here. And the single women were like, absolutely. Yeah, I'm down for it. But then the husbands were like, hey, I could give my wife to this guy. So then he has all these children that are his. And then after, I think the cult, there was a period of time he went to jail and like every day, all of them would come to the jail and talk to him. He went to jail for like several months. I think the cult lasted for about 15 years. And by the end of it, there were so many violence scenarios that happened. But one of the more intense ones was a woman tried to run away after I think he had forced himself on her. I can't remember the scenario. But she tried to run away, and it was in the middle of Canada in the winter, so it was freezing. And these men brought her back, and he, in front of everyone, he dragged her onto, like, he had like a church set up. He dragged her to the altar, pulled a hatchet, and cut her arm off at the front of the room in front of everyone, and no one did anything. They were just like, yeah, she went against us. What else are we going to do? And, she's crying and screaming. And then he just puts down the axe and holds her and starts patting her like, shh, it's okay. And everyone was just like, yeah, this is fine.
This is what happens when you mess with the cult leader.
The thing that eventually did them in was a woman died during
It was something like she got sick or she got cut, and I forget the details, but Roche did something like he ordered someone to put a bag over her mouth or something like that. He ordered them to do something that got her killed. And then there was a period of time where they tried to hide her body, and then her family came looking for her, and eventually everything got found out. Oh, it was the woman who got her arm cut off. She escaped while the police were investigating, and she went to the police, told them what happened, and all of them got arrested. But yeah, these people were conditioned over the period of over a decade to be like, yeah, if he wants to cut her arm off, like that's his right. That's what we get. And that's scary to read about, like situations like that where people are absolutely at the will of some madman.
And you have to remember like something else with it is like the longer someone is in a cult or in like one of those circles, the more like sunk cost is involved. And so like someone who's in a cult for 2 days is a lot more likely to be talked out of it. If you've been in there for years, like that is your life. Leaving that is not only changing your whole life and uprooting yourself, it's also an admission that you were fooled. And I don't remember who said it, but it's a lot easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. And so like you spend 5 years in a cult, like that's your fucking life. Like you're not going to let anything separate you from that because those are your friends. That's your family. So
what are we defining as cults? Like what how do you know it's a cult? Someone tells you, hey, Taylor, look, I found myself. There's this group of people. They got a new way of doing things, and I like it. And for the first time in my life, I feel at peace. You know what? I'm leaving my job behind. I'm putting all my money into this. We all did. And look, hey, I am definitely not the richest guy there, buddy. I'm gonna tell you that right now. We're pulling a lot of money together so we can all just live in fucking harmony. And that's all there is to it. I mean, there's a guy in charge, and he takes a cut. But Father Michael keeps us together. He keeps us guided on the path of that God wanted us to be on, the one he originally wanted us to be on. You know what I mean? No owls. And it's a good place. Like, what do you say to this guy?
I mean, it's hard because like so much of like the cult part is the insistence on removal of yourself socially from your existing connections. So if you were inviting me and you were like, yeah, bring your family, bring your friends, like we meet up every week and we're going to hang out and we do this, I'd be like, okay, this isn't a cult. They're not trying to separate me from my life. If you were like, hey, in addition to this, Taylor, I think you should come stay on this compound with me for a while. No, just you. I don't think your parents and your friends, I don't think they're bought in yet, honestly. Do you think they are? No, I don't think they're like you and I agree. But yeah, come on. Then I'd be like, okay, like this guy's trying to fucking put layers between me and the people I'm familiar with. This is a cult.
I've never seen anything like that, honestly. I'm glad that I was never cool enough, I guess, to be invited to a cult.
I haven't been invited either.
Not even the Klan. Like I remember my dad told me
how many Klansmen are there? Like 13 FBI agents? Who the fuck is in the Klan in 2023?
Unironically. Woody did have a cult question that got cut off. Do you remember?
I was asking about how the money worked.
Good.
Oh, for the anthill kids?
Yeah, well, in general, like how do they get people to give up their resources and give them to someone?
So it depends on the cult. Sometimes they'll have a few benefactors. Like sometimes they'll convince a couple rich guys, and that's where most of the money comes from. Sometimes, like I don't think Waco was a cult to the degree people say it was, but it's definitely a cult in some
Branch
regard.
Davidians, eh?
The Branch Davidians, yeah. The way that they did it is Koresh just stayed at the compound, but everyone worked in town, and there was
how I know it was a cult?
Fun. How's that?
Because they're called the Branch Davidians. And,
correct.
As a kid, that rolls off the tongue on the newscast, and you don't ever stop to think about what it means. David Koresh leads the Davidians. You know what I mean? Like it's a cult. The real question about that is, were they sexually abusing children and fostering an environment in which that was to be normal and commonplace? Or did the FBI lie about that after they burnt all those children alive?
So from all the research, all the stories I've read on the topic, I do think the FBI fostered the story. There were several CPS investigations before all of that went down. They were never able to turn up any evidence, and everyone who was a part of it vehemently attested that didn't happen. That was
I say it's 50-50. I'm 50-50 on it. Here's why. I just think it just seems like historically, and from every example we ever have, whenever you have some dude who's running a cult
it's all about pussy, and it ends up being about pussy for some reason. We haven't been able to put our finger on that one here yet, despite all our study. Research expert Woody here, he's delved deep and hard, and he hasn't come up with
as deep as I can. I don't mean to brag.
Yeah, it hurt that for a while. So, but I don't know what they were. I don't know if that was the case or not, but I'd say 50-50 it was, right? It just seems like it almost always that's what's going on. Even with like the good religions, the ones that we pretend aren't cults, it's like that's what's going on there too.
I'm going to balance that out. I'm going to say 0% chance they were doing that, and it was the FBI lying. So now the average is back. No, I have done no research. I have no idea.
Okay, so let me tell you about this. So here's what I saw on the news, and I don't know if this was the FBI being like, oh, look at what we found. It was like a kid's sort of informational pamphlet that you would hand to, like, I don't know, a kid to prepare them for their sexual life that's coming right around the corner.
Like your body's changing. Like that.
No, more like David's gonna fuck you.
You may notice hair. You may notice hair where there wasn't hair before. You may notice a man named David walking into your room erect at night and demanding things of you. This is all part of becoming a woman.
Yeah, so I saw those pamphlets on the news, and the only question is, like, if you could find out those were fake, I feel like that's the little piece of evidence that matters to me.
So I looked into the pamphlets, and from every article I read, that was not evidence that was brought forward by any State Department. That was entirely mentioned by news sources and never backed by anything.
Yikes.
All the cult members said that it's kind of like, you remember how after, like, well, I was too young to remember, but looking back, after 9/11, they were like, oh, and we found the hijacker's passport in the record.
Yeah.
Like that whole, like, no, you didn't. What are you talking about? Like, it was kind of like that. The news is like, hey, I know what we can do to be sensational for the next half hour.
Sure.
So from everything I read, that's
where'd that pamphlet come from? Like, where'd it come from? Someone made that shit. Someone printed it off of a printer. Someone stapled it together. Someone drew those little stick figure children. You know what I mean? Someone wrote it.
Yeah.
And the only answer that comes to mind is that's the sort of thing that our government does sometimes when they're taking somebody down, like a political figure or something like that. They make those sorts of false evidences famously. Like if you look at the sort of things they were doing to Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, or even we talked about, it's people we don't like as well. It's not like they're just picking on civil rights leaders, also like Fidel Castro, just all those Wile E. Coyote stunts they tried to pull, making his beard fall out, making him be on LSD during his speeches, all that craziness.
Say something.
Yeah. Like that Russian dog. Have you seen that like Russian cosmonaut dog thing? It's one of the most fucked up videos ever. I bet it's on YouTube. The Russians wanted to see if they could keep a dog head alive, just the head. And so it's like just a dog head laying sideways on the table, and it's got a bunch of tubes and things, and it's like a dog like panting and like breathing in a terrified way because it's just a head now. And it was like, how does this get you to space? Maybe I'm making up that it had anything to do with space, but
let's see if we can keep just a dog head alive. Yet
they're planning for Futurama.
Yeah, no wonder we're losing this fucking space race. We're in here fucking with dog heads, seeing how long to keep them alive. They stole all the genius Germans. Oh, we don't want the genius Germans. Let the Americans have them.
Dude, I don't understand why America says it won the space race. What? I feel like we just lost, set up our own goal line, and then said we won.
That's exactly.
Well, come on, it's a pretty good goal line, right?
Yeah. Hold on, this is written by the victors.
Here's a little thought experiment for you. Do you really think that Russia and Russians think they lost the space race? They got to orbit before we did. They got a giant Yuri Gagarin statue there, better than any of our NASA statues, frankly. Like, you go ask a Russian, of course we won. We got there first. You guys lost. No, we got to the moon first. That was the original.
They went, and because of the way we built the space shuttle, they were able to go to each of the subcontractors and purchase the parts for our space shuttle like it was a goddamn Lego set that cost $100 million, and then just build it themselves. And so they built their own space shuttle right before the fall of the Soviet Union. And they also had plans to go to Mars. Now, that would have been moving the fucking flagpole. If they go to Mars, then they win the space race.
Yeah, but they still, like, I didn't know the list was this comprehensive. Thank you, Woody. Like,
First
satellite in space, Soviet Union. First animal in space, Soviet Union. First man in space, Soviet Union. First woman in space, Soviet Union. First spacewalk, Soviet Union. First space station, Soviet Union. First man on the moon, USA. Winner of the space race, USA.
And who won the entirety of the Cold War? I think that's very telling. Who writes my history textbooks? It's not Sputnik 5. You know, it's fucking,
let's go to Taylor's point on
American Johnson & Johnson, right?
Do the Russians think they lost the Cold War, or did it just never really end and it's still happening and they're currently like,
I think the Russians
propagating elections or something?
They think they lost because of like the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It was like such an apparent like.
Maybe they see themselves as part of communism, which is winning.
No,
maybe is communism popular over there? No. Not anymore.
I have a couple Russian friends, so I've who live not just in Moscow, but one of them lives in like wherever north of fucking Mongolia is or was from there. They're very much in the same like almost like the same mentality as the people who were very apathetic about the last election cycle. They're like, our country just kind of sucks, and that's just the way it is, and they don't think that's not communism or anything. They moved over to the U.S. for a reason. They're like, it's more opportunities over here. They're all musicians, so take it with a grain of salt. They're not exactly like poli-sci majors that are like, well, here's all the complex. They're just like, it's not really great over there. I don't know what to tell you. So I came over here, and it's also not great, but it's just
it's sunnier.
Yeah.
It makes sense that, like, like if you talk to people that left, that like people and their families who left Russia, like that place sucks, dude. Oh, it's the worst because everybody who likes it, you know, or I guess a lot of people who hate it, they can't afford to leave.
Yeah.
And everybody who thinks Russia's great lives in Russia.
Yeah. That's the difference between, I think, Russia and the U.S. The people that are impoverished and live there hate it versus in the U.S., they love it. They're so excited to love America is what I mean. Not being poor. They love America, right? Like that, like the nationalism is what I was getting at. I don't think I don't think people in abject poverty in the U.S. are like, fuck yeah, like this is incredible.
Russian servers. I'll set it to Russian servers. It'll be like 4 a.m. in Moscow, and I joke, but what I'm looking for is a dead server to get my task done. But I'll joke like, no, I'm taking this is for Ukraine. I'm taking the fight to them. I'm yelling as soon as I hear and bliat come out of somebody's VoIP. I start talking about Slava Ukraine. They get really pissy. It's fun.
I was joking about that when they had that competition to get a streamer on them. I was gonna try and get a Ukrainian flag to piss them off.
Don't do that. They'll never send you like a fucking helmet or a painting again. You'll get
man. Imagine they'd probably get fucking arrested by the FSB or some shit.
Yeah.
Or they did that. Yeah. If they did that, I don't like that. Look, I like that game. This is my one bit of hypocrisy. As far as I know, Tarkov isn't owned by an oligarch or directly in Putin's pocket or anything like that. It's just a fun video game. But
man, who gives a shit anyway?
Did you see that the U.S. was trying to ban Russian software?
Yes.
I also saw that.
I also saw that Putin is trying to create his own game console. So perhaps these two things are related.
Wait, is that second part serious? Because I didn't see it.
It's 100% serious. They're doing the Bliat 360 or whatever the fuck. I'm not even joking around. I mean, the name I'm joking around, but Putin's like, we need to compete with the Xbox and the PlayStation. We need a Russian gaming console.
Why would they want to compete there?
Yeah, they want to be everywhere, Woody. They're a first world nation. They're equal to the United States.
They should compete in like agriculture productivity or something, not gaming consoles.
No, it's gonna be like Stalin, where he's like, yeah, everyone's gonna have a camera, and then he's just gonna work half the country to death trying to make fucking cameras.
Yeah,
and then no one's gonna get any. They're just gonna sell them all.
It's gonna be like, have you ever read about Mao and the sparrows?
Of course.
Yeah. That's one of the most baffling things I've ever read about in history, where he's just like, these birds cause problem, kill all of them.
Well, like
not one. Well, yeah, they were ruining the crops, and then they realized that you kill all the birds, and then the insects really ruin the crops.
Yeah,
but think about like no one being able to be like, we should really bring up the whole insect world to him at some point.
See, the problem there,
I'm not fucking doing it.
The problem there isn't the idea. The problem is the complete control that fascist communist government had. and that they could enact that plan over the entire nation of China. You know what I mean? If it was some smaller branched up government like here, you'd be like, oh my God, what did Nebraska do? Well, the rest of us will never make that mistake. But instead, it's every peasant everywhere is getting a rifle to shoot.
Is it feasible that in the 1940s they just didn't, like, nobody knew what the consequences of killing sparrows would be?
No, there's no way you
surely
know 40s and advanced agriculture without.
Well, if I made it 1840s, you'd probably all agree
Well,
with
I
me.
promise you
just
the
don't know where that
Chinese
line
didn't.
is.
That's all I can say for sure, Woody. The Chinese didn't know.
And the people, anyone who did was keeping it to themselves, I bet.
That's my thing. I want to know, like, did a lot of people know that this was really dumb and just couldn't speak up? Or was it just not widely known?
Oh, that's pretty common in Asian cultures though. Like they say that like the Japanese, the main reason Japan lost against America so hard towards the end was because that their commanders just couldn't say, "Hey man, we're getting our asses kicked," because they were just too afraid and like too honorable or whatever. And they were like, no, we're definitely winning, even as they're getting marched on fucking Okinawa. They're like, yeah, no, we're kicking their asses. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Not helpful.
But also, like any mass farmer at the time would have known, like, oh, you kill all the birds, like that's going to cause these aphids or whatever the fuck to crop up.
I don't know that they had mass farmers. I think they had peasants doing the farming. I know there was instances, I'm thinking probably Soviet times, where they just come up with these plans and treating populations like they were, I don't know, tools in a shed or machinery. We're like, no, we need more farmers. All of you people are now farmers. And then you'd send a bunch of people who'd never farmed before to be fucking farmers. I'm not sure that there were those gigantic, what we do is crazy. Our huge farms that are just these, as far as the eye can see over the horizon type corn and wheat farms. I imagine them being peasants on a few acres. But what he did was he handed out rifles to everyone and said, shoot the birds.
And I think they got money. Like you could turn them in and get a Chinese dollar.
I know they did it with wolf ears back in the day. And also, people's heads.
Birds.
That would, I guarantee there was a dude breeding birds. Like, oh, I find loophole.
I think that happened with snakes in America. I'm not sure.
Loophole?
It did happen with snakes.
A loophole.
You've heard that too.
And then so then they said, fuck this shit. We're not going to pay you for breeding snakes. And the breeder said, well, then if these are worth nothing, freedom. and so now there's like tens of thousands of snakes. So you get this interesting study in economics and ecology and just humanity being shitty, and I guess capitalism as well. It's pretty fun.
You told me about that snake
sounds
shit,
less insane to me. Is it because it's my country? Would the Chinese think the sparrow thing wasn't completely stupid because it's theirs?
No,
I mean, they don't do it
tens
anymore.
of millions of people died. They knew it was dumb. Yeah,
it's pretty
Well,
bad.
I mean, there's pros and cons.
Like
it's just like the one. It's the one with the
like Mao
the
has like a
prize hunting.
Gretzky-esque record compared to like Stalin and Hitler. Like one of
think him
those
and
like
Stalin
not
is
even
insane.
close. Yeah.
I
Is
don't know.
he that far ahead of Stalin? Because I felt like Stalin took out like 10 mil as well.
Stalin took out a ton,
insane.
but
Oh,
like
Pol
I think
Pot was
Mao
pretty
is,
good.
like, I think Mao dwarfs everyone.
Where does Genghis Khan rank?
Probably way.
OG fucking platinum. Goated with
he
the
wasn't
sauce
that bad.
champion.
There
He
weren't
wasn't
that
that
many
bad.
people back then.
Getting various
wasn't
answers
bad.
here.
They killed the dogs
no.
and cats.
No, he had rules where you could like continue to live in your own culture and like self-govern and stuff as long as you paid taxes and dues to the Khan.
And he
I
would
believe.
remove monarchies and put in meritocracies, and like a lot of
I-
people
I-
benefited under Genghis Khan's domination.
Yeah, I mean the wars that he fought were bloody, but I believe that most of what happened after like his ruling class wasn't as bad. So,
Bloody if you fought back. If you just said, welcome, dear conqueror. I, for one, welcome our Genghis Khan. Then you might be a new local leader.
Yeah.
I don't know about that guy. I don't like him.
You're talking about my great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Mine too. No, I didn't actually. No,
I think he
I
made
want
everyone a
to
little bit
dislike
Asian.
him. I want to dislike him right now for the point of discussion. But like the horseback archers is such a cool vibe. Like that's neat. Like running around shooting a bow and arrow from horseback.
Prima Nocta is the cool vibe. Like if you're Genghis Khan.
I can't remember if Prima Nocta is one of those things that probably Kyle at one point told me like, it was nothing like that. Or if you led me the other direction, was like, oh, that was a real thing. Because you could lie to me right now either way.
Mm-hmm.
If it was something that never happened, or if it actually did.
If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say it happened. But I don't remember the historical stuff. Obviously, I remember the Braveheart references.
Yeah.
And that does seem like something the English would fucking do. So
yeah,
maybe.
It's definitely an English thing.
Yeah,
because they hated the Scottish though. Surely they did it to try and breed them out.
And ensure loyalty, and all sorts of things, and just get laid, right?
Exactly.
That's part of it. A lot of the witch persecutions was about that. They just wanted to like disrobe and torture ladies. I saw an interesting green text recently about the state of modern women. And it was that after generations and generations.
When you had me a green text, bro.
So I was popping around Pole. And
I went to 4chan to learn about girls. How'd it go, Kyle? Tell us more.
First of all, we're there's good folks over there.
On both sides, sure.
On both sides. There's people on both sides of 4chan that are good people, okay?
Shit.
Anyway, they suggested that after generations and generations, thousands of years, if you will, you'd have this scenario that would play itself out where the attacking army would surround the city would be defeated, and all the virtuous, honorable women would kill themselves. Because that's what you do. Their husbands have gone out and fought to the death. They didn't win. Now you kill yourself. So that not only you can meet him in the afterlife, but so that you won't be and dishonored, because your honor is your family's honor as much as it is your husband's honor. You're doing everybody a solid, including yourself, unless you're a dirty whore and you don't care. And so we just repeated that process for 2,000, all of time. And now we're left with modern women.
Descendants of dirty whores. That makes sense.
And
you could argue that only brave men have died then, so that all men are now descendants of pussies.
You could argue that only strong fighters have won, because that's all that's fucking left.
Right.
Look, there's
Flush. We only do the anti-woman part on the show.
We're sitting here. For all people, if we're sitting here, we're the descendants of the people who were best at fucking surviving in a scary, awful fucking world. We've got good genes.
Up until like 60 years ago, then everything became easy. Now people don't die in childbirth and shit like that.
Yeah, but my dad was born back in the polio time, so I'm still at least a half blood.
Yeah. You're a half blood hard man. Yeah. You're a hard man by name, soft man by nature.
Yeah, we're only a generation removed from real hard men, though. For real.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I don't know.
My dad I would consider like a hard man. Yeah.
Well, in our hemisphere in particular, I don't think there are as many hard men. And what I mean, like fucking like ruthless, tough as nails, like the people who had made it through like the Wild West, or like fucking I don't know, just the olden times that were full of war. And
who are you thinking of in the other hemisphere? Like who are those MMA guys?
The Dagestanis, the Russians,
like those guys?
All of those people that are from like warlike tribing communities. That anybody who's in a country
they grew up
like,
in Kosovo and shit like that.
Yeah, there you go. Those countries that are the size of 3 American counties, and they're shaped like a zigzag, and they're attached to 8 other similar countries, and they all hate each other. Those are hard motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They are. That's why they're good at fighting, and they seem to love it. They're all about it. Would Putin's console even sell well in Dagestan, even if they because they love them there? But I guarantee they're not going to be. I bet they don't even have like 360.
They're on that
there.
Sigma grind, right? They wake up every day and
like
just
a Saturn,
wrestle.
bro. They're still huffing on CDs and
they're blown into cartridges. They're not up to CDs yet, for sure. No way.
Bears.
Our audience has never blown into a cartridge.
Yeah, they have. Retro gaming is so big. That's got to be. Right. I see that on Reddit. I choose to believe it's fucking bots. I get that. Like if you're 15, maybe you haven't seen a cassette recent. Maybe you don't know what a cassette is. But Jesus Christ, y'all, all of y'all out there who are like 20 plus, y'all know what an audio cassette looks like. You probably listened to one. Your uncle probably has an old truck with a player in it, and he stuck some George Strait in there one time. Like
I don't know. Audio cassette, probably not.
I think he might be going too far.
Retro gaming, yeah, maybe. Cassette, but cassette's a breach.
A 20-year-old was born in 2004.
Yeah.
And so
CDs
I would
were
not be
already gone then.
surprised at all if they have no experience whatsoever with cassettes. Like
I
they probably
guess.
barely have used CDs.
They've never put
They
a pencil in a
probably
cassette
haven't used CDs. Like
Yeah.
2004.
Oh, they've never done one of those.
They put the pencil in there and fix the
Man, I bet they
ribbon.
look
Yeah.
at that and they're like, "What?" In olden times, they would force the children's fingers into this slot.
That's how they got you to read.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look in the old paintings, the children have very pointy fingers.
Look at how grades went down after they got rid of that.
I'm not saying I'm qualified to vote for president. I'm just saying that not everyone is. All right. If you make the test hard enough, I can't pass it. I won't argue with you. I won't say I am too smart enough to decide who's president. I won't argue with you.
There should be more questions about Rome on this test.
Just
there should be.
There should be a few about Rome. I think they're pretty pertinent. The fall of the greatest empire of all time. There we were with hot running water, and then we went to the Dark Ages and like rubbing boiled down horse urine in our wounds for 1,000 fucking years. So it's a good idea to look at Rome if you're going to be voting. I'd like someone who knew the consequences of a failed republic. I'd like someone who knew the consequences of the most powerful power in not just a region, but now a globe failing.
I was only half joking, but yeah, it makes sense, especially as America. I think we're the current reigning empire. I think you could say that. And to sort of know what happened to England, what happened to Rome, how these things get bigger and smaller, and help them make better decisions.
Rome just kept overextending itself towards the end of its existence, funding tons of foreign wars. You know,
based on what I learned from TV, it was a love triangle gone awry.
I'm pretty sure there was some immigration and some infrastructure issues too.
No,
I don't think they had a wall at all.
Huh, I think you're right. I bet they had a ton of walls.
They had the Hadrian's Wall.
They did. They had Hadrian's Wall up in
England.
England.
Well, because I've never heard of it, I'm not sure it's true.
It's still there.
It is.
Like that's proof.
Hadrian himself placed every stone.
He did. Stonewall Jackson was one of his first in his command there, if I remember correctly.
I finished Rome, the TV series. You were right. Oh my god! When you said it moved really quickly, I thought the first season moved really quickly. The first season ended in the way that I thought the whole thing would end. Like, what even is season 2? Well, sure enough, season 2 is pretty cool. And man, those last 3 episodes covered 2/3 of the story. Yeah.
It was wild. Yeah, it's a shame that didn't get. If that came out now, I would bet it would be wildly popular. It's shocking to me. You can tell, like, when some sort of global algorithm gets triggered by a subject. Right now, it is Rome. Like whatever that was recently,
TikTok
where someone on
thing,
TikTok like brought up that topic that I asked my boyfriend how much he talks about Rome, and he answered this, and then it just exponentially grew until like Netflix and Hulu started recommending me Roman-based things. Netflix is like, hey, here's a series we made 2 years ago that's like 6 parts of Roman blah, blah, blah. Okay, why not? Like there's no way that's a coincidence. It's happening. I guarantee in Hollywood, that algorithm, a bell went ding, 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 ding. What's that? It's the Make a Rome movie bell. All right. Who wants to do it? Like it's being made or written right now. The next Roman-based movie, it'll happen in 3 or 4 years, and it'll be fucking cool. I love that as a historical topic. I love it as movies and TV shows. Yeah, I wish Gladiator had been a whole goddamn universe. You know,
is there another empire as cool as Rome? Like, was Greece anywhere near that cool? Or
yeah, I mean,
Ottoman Empire.
The Romans stole all the Greeks' ideas.
They optimized them.
That's where if you see Caesar Octavian. That's what Caesar Octavian's doing. Like when he's a boy, that his mother's like, "Stop reading all about those old dirty Greeks. They were all boy buggerers anyway. Now, have you had any gash yet?" No, mother. I have plenty of time to get gash.
A man of your age should have had 12 slave girls' gashes by now.
That's
like what is?
I'm
what
not
is
exaggerating
the
much.
What's the joke? Like the Greeks invented sex, and then the Romans discovered you could do it with women. Something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And
the Greeks actually get like more of that, like like they weren't
shame.
as gay
They have the
as
reputation for
people
being-
say. Yeah, that like that was like an insult. They would like the Spartans like would make fun of the Athenians being like a bunch of boy-loving buggerers or whatever the words were back then.
Yeah,
Still was
or at
going
least
on.
they did in the
but
movies that I've
not
watched.
to like what our idea of it is today, where it's like, oh yeah, the Greeks just like totally cool. with
I'm
that.
sure there's plenty of gay people and like getting down in all kinds of ways. The Romans were just perverse, and all the way up to their leadership. You know, you would see there's even that scene in Rome where the guy's like, "I've heard that you Romans would have a baboon fuck a woman," and he's like, "Yes, we sometimes will have baboons fuck a woman. I believe it's no more difficult than training the baboon and restraining the woman." And the guy, it's usually reserved as a punishment, though. And the man is like, "I would like to see this. I would like to see a baboon fuck a woman." He's like, "Well, steps can be taken, certainly, but the matter at hand is..." It's just like, "Yeah, sure, dude. We'll get you your baboon fucking like after negotiations. Like, come on, let's move along."
Even then, back in those days, I feel like those guys had to have been like, really, the baboon fucking guy. Like, are
No,
you
that's
sure?
what
Are you sure you don't want to go to the Colosseum?
No, that's what they did in
Baboon
the
fucking
Colosseum.
again.
That's what they did in the Colosseum. They would have baboon fucking in the Colosseum. All right, first of all,
don't think so.
All right, I love when you say things like this, and I ask you if you want to bet because I know you're wrong, and you refuse to bet, and then Zach looks it up, and then you go, "Huh, baboon fucking in the Colosseum."
All right, Zach, look up baboon fucking in the Colosseum. There's no way.
Are baboons at all native to that area?
And
No,
of course. So let me just say this: one of the flexes that the Roman Empire would do to like keep its people, we're taxing them a lot for this big military we have. It's very expensive because it's an organized military that you feed and like, what do you do for a living? I'm a fucking soldier. I show up to the post and I serve there for 5 years at a time. You got to pay, and you pay them in gold, right? So to show the people and to pay them off for this, they would bring back from Africa and from all the way to England and Europe the bears, the lions, the monsters of those lands that they conquered, the elephants, and bring them home as during their triumphs and be like, "Look how powerful we are. We brought these baboons home to fuck women." Nothing about baboon rape. I'm
Read it, Taylor. Read it out loud.
Let's bet $1,000. There's nothing though about baboon rape. There's also nothing to actually indicate that the reenactment Marshall alludes to was anything but a dude in a bull costume mounting someone in a pacific costume. No rape involved and probably no actual intercourse given the constraints of visibility within the Colosseum. Words from my mouth, basically, is what I. That's
so Google this. We're forced bestiality Colosseum.
You're really
because I'm positive it's true. And if that doesn't work, maybe lose the Colosseum and just do Romans, because that was kind of like what. I mean, if the first thing doesn't work, I'm almost positive that they use this as a form of execution. Like they would have a horse rape a woman to death.
You've been taking a bunch of Derek's, dream supplements. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
This isn't something that you had a fever dream about that you were just excited.
This diet consists of mushrooms and pot.
Yeah, mushrooms.
They definitely did.
That wouldn't even be as entertaining. As like just from entertainment perspective, do you want to see a bunch of the Retiarius fighting the
you have
shield
a variety
guy?
of things, Taylor. Like you don't want all of look different
variety
channels.
is the spice of life.
It was just like television. Like one day you'd have women being executed by rape of donkey or whatever, and then the next day we'll recreate that old what's the myth about the guy who like the eagle comes down and eats his liver every day and it regenerates? Is that Greek or Roman? You would think it's Roman because I know they recreated it.
Yeah, I think
they
the Romans
the birds to come down and
they
do
did. They did rip a lot of their stuff from the Greeks. Not
Yeah,
even
how do you train
inventing
a
their.
bird to eat a man's liver. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think they did that.
I bet they did that too.
No,
wanna double
because
down?
they. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Zach,
I wanna
Zach
double down.
also fact check that at one point birds were trained to eat men's liver as to recreate I can't remember if it's Greek or Roman, but the mythological god, nonsense, theological myth of that occurring.
Because there's no
They
way
shoulda
you
did
could.
that.
The bird's gonna eat whatever's in front of it. As soon as it's
Well, maybe-
done with the
maybe-
liver, it's gonna be eating your kidneys or whatever else the dead guy has.
We're
in
not
there.
talking about what it does later. We're talking about for the show of it all. Like, what does it come down to do? And I say they trained a bird to eat a man's
Oh.
liver on command.
If it was eating liver
out
on
of his
command,
live body.
does it like
Sorry, Prometheus,
definitely?
Thank you. Yeah, it was Prometheus' punishment for giving fire to man. They did that to him.
Which big ups to Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
Like for
Yeah,
helping
thanks
us
for that
out with
fire, man.
Like fire
Prometheus
so
was
important.
punished by Zeus. Yeah, but did the Romans recreate that? You know, in real life in the Colosseum? And also, where are we on this animal rape as punishment? Because I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
I think you're wrong, and I think we should bet.
Animal rape is fake.
Ooh,
I've seen
that's
multiple
been
sources.
Snopes.
I've seen multiple sources. They with the part.
What sources? What websites are you on?
Motherless, Pornhub, lots of sources.
Yeah, there was a gentleman on eFucked, and he wouldn't steer me the wrong direction.
No, I mean like watch. I feel like I've watched not just the Rome TV show, but like I feel like I've watched
There
historical.
were no cameras back then, Kyle.
Yeah,
of course we don't have cameras, but
there's a reenactments you're watching.
I'm not talking about videos I've watched. They're all dressed in togas and shit, man. I'm telling you.
And then at the end, some lady came in, got naked, and some guy fucked her.
This is like
he was a plumber or something.
If I have truly been misled, which I am not admitting until I've done thorough research after the show,
Admit it.
I'm sure that I've watched YouTube videos that were like talking about like ancient Rome was more perverse than you can imagine. Emperor Commodus would order women to be raped by donkeys for his.
Up next, was Hitler an alien?
No, not those kind of videos.
The Nazis' secret occult pact with the devil.
I don't watch those anymore.
They got you too many times where you're like, wait a minute.
No.
They just didn't have enough footage to make another Nazi war documentary. So now they're like doing stills and smash cuts of demon and like Beelzebub heads.
I'm standing by this forced animal rape by the Romans as punishment and or execution. Or perhaps as a party favor. I will get to the bottom of it. Zach is clearly in on some sort of lie to make me look silly. And I'll get to the bottom of that too. I'll root out any conspirators, Taylor, and do nothing about it.
Then do nothing about it. Well, either way, Zach, Operation Kyle Fool is complete.
One of the times that I remember I've talked about it before, but my teacher just went on and on about the Spartans, and it was this inspiring moment in my childhood education where I thought of him as my favorite teacher, and it turns out everything he taught me was like sort of lies and not.
What did he teach you?
Well, it was the Spartan stuff about the way their lives went and stuff, and it turned out a lot of that wasn't exactly true, or at least I see sources now that suggest that it was not.
Yeah.
So I don't
like
know.
the like over the top like pederasty stuff.
Yeah, the over the top like militarized society and like the agoge, we're 7 years old, you're drug away, and you're in the army till you're 45 or whatever. Like all that crazy, and the craziness of the training. That he was very specific about that. Anyway, YouTube has led me to believe that much of that was exaggerated or just outright lies. Spartan propaganda, it turned out.
It could be. I mean, they
lived on to the 20th century.
They would definitely want their enemies to believe that they were like insane warrior people, even if it was kind of a bit of an exaggeration. They were warrior oriented.
Yeah, I believe that they were insane. like that by definition is pretty fucking crazy. All right, they were.
I guess your spiritual or lordly, godly rather, punishment be for these gals?
Well, spare the rod, spoil the child. I think Dad said that.
That was my mother.
It's not even in the Bible.
My father told your mother that, and she knows how to follow instructions. She went a little out there. I think she also read that part about beating your slave half to death, and it's A-okay.
But she also read the passage about never using a stiletto shoe and an ice pick at the same time.
Listen, I thought the Romans were hard on me. But I was looking in on you from time to time, and
I mean,
rough go.
The Romans didn't really give a shit one way or the other about you.
Oh, they gave me that cats and nine tails pretty severely. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know if you've ever been whipped into your back is nothing but a bloody mess. Well, I mean,
Woody has, but I don't know if you have, Taylor. But it is.
Oh, I
painful.
flagellate myself all the time.
Well, of course you do.
I'm a monk. Praise you.
Oh, I feel it.
You just-
Right here.
You feel it? Hey, what if I kiss way lower on the cross? Nice. Nice. That part of this cross is a little salty. a little bleachy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Thank you, my
Like,
son.
I wonder who the guy was who was like, yeah, and if you want to join our order, you have to wear these clothes. And it was a dude who had a really dope place on a mountain, who like everybody else had left the monastery, and he like had a really cool thing, and they like showed up like, I want to serve the Lord as a monk. And he had to be like, yeah, well, you gotta wear these awful clothes. Okay, I'll do it. Ah, shit. You gotta cut your hair. Give me a minute. Okay, you gotta do this. This is a new rule. I just got this from God. And they're like already getting razors out. Like, okay, and he's like, fuck, shit. You gotta get up and pray in the exact same spot. So 60 years from now, a kid on a trip in a college exchange program can come and take a photo of where your feet have carved out a little bit in the wood from how much you've prayed over the decades. Like, yeah, of course I'll do that. Like, that's the real history that they're not telling you about Christianity. Is it was a bunch of cool cats trying to keep monasteries fun, and then a bunch of losers showed up and took it seriously. And you can confirm this, Christ.
That's exactly what happened.
See, the reason we cut it like this is because we imagine where the crown of thorns is, and we remove the hair within.
I like to imagine that it was one monk with male pattern baldness, and he was like, "You all have to look like me now."
I like to think that. Do you need to remain a virgin? Do you have to stay celibate?
Of course.
Right. So
do monks?
I don't know,
Yes.
but in my head, that haircut is designed to facilitate that.
It does help with running the ladies away. They don't care for it.
It's practically a head condom.
Your head looks like a cock.
It's really like it would be a happy day in a monastery to like start losing this. Where then you're like, oh, thank God, now I'm just bald guy. Now like I won't get made fun of every time I go to market to buy more wooden shoes and robes. Or whatever the fuck they wore.
So
I'm
someone
actually
in South
that monk,
Carolina
who made peas fuck and invented things about evolution. Howie Wendell, I think his name was.
Ah, yes. That's what it was.
Yep. He bred peas. Do you guys not know this?
He made peas fuck? I know we didn't cover this in school.
He did that hereditary thing, right? Like he came up with the whole thing that shows how traits are passed on with like plants, right?
Yeah,
I think we did cover this, but I forgot the guy's name.
Yeah, this
Howie
is like
Mandel?
this is like 8th grade fucking science or something like that.
He was a germaphobe as well.
Also a germaphobe. I loved his work on Bobby's World. Not so much on America's Got Talent. Pretty annoying. More of a Stern fan there, but Stern didn't contribute as much to the world of biology, so it's kind of even for me.
Back in the day, like you could get so much credit for bullshit science. Where like this dude was just in a monastery and he's like, oh no, I mixed these peas with these other peas in the same plot, and then like different peas grow, and people are like, this guy knew that he could put peas together, and it's like, no, he made a mistake, and then he ran with it, you know, he figured it out over time.
If you could bring 3 people back to life, but you had to kill someone for each person you brought back to life, who would you bring back and who would you kill?
All right,
George
so first
Carlin,
of all,
Sarah Palin. Boom, there's my answer.
You get 3, so I'm gonna kill all the Kardashians. Let's just get that out of the way. So I mean, there's a public service right there. And let's see who we're gonna bring back. I think you bring back Kennedy. Bring back Einstein because I think it'd just be fun. See what he thinks now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bring back Leonardo da Vinci too.
Really? I think
why
Da
not?
Vinci's overrated in this day.
I mean, I could be an asshole and be like, yeah, let's get Clint Eastwood back. Go through him like that, but
I would definitely pick Carlin, and I would kill Sarah Palin without a doubt. The world needs a comic like Carlin. There isn't one right now.
I think I'd kill my grandfather.
Jesus Christ, Woody, that got dark real fucking quick.
Yeah.
How is he not already dead?
Oh, well,
He's
your
dead
grandfather
now.
was the drunk asshole, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Kill
him again?
So my
Oh,
right.
I see. You use one of your wishes to bring him back, and then you kill him.
Double
You're like, I
kill
bring
him.
my grandpa back like 3 times, and they kill him 3
And he'd
times.
be like, "Oh shit, I'm back. Let me visit my kid. Oh, you're dead, grandfather."
I guess I
Sorry."
didn't think through the fact that he's dead now. But so my grandfather used to beat my father, my aunt, and my grandmother, and then he ran away when my dad was 10. And I'm pretty. He was like a drop dead alcoholic. I wish I had a way to describe just how much of a degenerate wino type guy he was. And I think to myself, like, here's a guy who just did a lot more taking than giving through his entire life is a stain on the history of Earth. Just kill that guy, and we'll bring back somebody better.
I've got a whole new way to look
volunteer him as tribute. Go on.
I think the opposite. I think I would bring back my grandfather and be like, "Yo, look at what your son did. Okay, he made me, and he did this with his life because you were such a cunt. He made
I don't give a fuck.
You might have worked in you might have
That's
worked
what- yeah, you don't want
you might have
that.
worked
Here's-
in NASA, but my father accomplished this. So fuck you old.
We're looking
fuck.
at this power
Right?
the whole wrong way. We're trying to bring somebody back for the betterment of man. Let's bring
Well,
Hitler
take
back
the
and just
DC.
kill him a few times. Let's just do that.
That's
bring
fine, too.
Hitler back, and then
He needs
you
to
kill him.
finish the job, and the right people.
Oh God.
Or
Yeah,
you guys
finish
haven't
the
thought of
job.
this. What we do is you have 3 opportunities. You don't have to take them all at the same time.
Okay.
You do
okay.
2 of them to show people you have the power to do it. So it's like I'm going to bring back fucking
Yeah.
Rockefeller, who still has a very wealthy estate in current
that'd be
times,
interesting.
and I'm going to kill Kim Jong Un. Everybody turn on the news, and then shazam, Rockefeller's here. News reports coming
Now, would
in.
you put
Kim
Rockefeller
Jong-un
in
dies
power
in
over
freak
of North
accident.
Vietnam?
Then
Would you put Rockefeller over there?
wait for me to finish. And then I bring somebody else back, kill another person. I still have 1 more left. And I start a religion because so many people have seen me do this. They know I can do it. They don't know there's a third limit. And I threaten anyone who opposes me that if I die, I will only come back stronger and more powerful than ever, like a Gandalf the White style threat. And they'll believe me because they know that I can do it at least twice.
And you could probably go
Would
ahead
you
and make the
threaten to
wish
kill the
that-
president or something to get like power?
No, only evil people. I kill Kim Jong Un. I would kill Coney and take all the credit. All the credit.
You'd be a YouTube sensation in 2012 again, Taylor.
It'd just be Coney 2015 and me just giving the birds that Nick got masturbated.
I wasted a wish on this fucker.
Yeah, we got him.
Nicely done, Taylor.
Who would you put in place in North Vietnam, though? Rockefeller? That'd be interesting.
Korea.
No,
Industrialize the shit
Rockefeller
out
was
of
brought
Vietnam.
back so that in his immense gratitude, I'm bankrolled the rest of my life.
Yeah,
It could be
Yeah,
Steve Jobs too.
Rockefeller's broke. His entire estate has been passed on.
Oh,
Yeah.
well then, okay, Steve Jobs, bring him back. He'll give
How's that
it to me
different?
out of
Now-
gratitude.
now the question
he'll
is,
give
does he
me
get his
Apple out of
stuff back?
gratitude, and then he'll kill himself again on some weird smoothie anti-carcinogen
That's a
diet.
question we've never had before, though. If you bring someone back who had the estate before, do they get the rights back to that, though?
Totally.
No,
yeah.
It's never happened
I think
before.
that. I think. Well, obviously, it's never happened.
Let's
There's
say-
no
let's say-
precedent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Woody. It's never happened
Glad I
before.
could help.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my plan.
To that, I mean, they built it. You know, it's only right if they get it back.
No.
Fuck.
What
no,
if you were?
though.
What if like your great grandfather started a business and you were still working in that business? If he got brought
I
back to
don't-
life, you'd
Fuck
be
you.
okay with
You
him
didn't
being
build
like,
the
"Fuck you,
business.
I'll do
The
that."
grandfather did. Fuck him. No, the grandfather gets it back if he comes back from the dead. He built it. The kid just got it passed down to him via genetics.
Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes.
Jesus Christ, I knew where that was going. But all I see is the white.
Well, that's what you isn't that why? Wasn't that the whole thing? You see the
Yeah.
whites of their eyes, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, you know they were within range that they couldn't turn around and get away from your firing.
which like thinking about Revolutionary War shit, that sucks. Like imagine being that guy charging in, and then they just unload on you
How do
because
you get
they haven't
people-
established rules of war again yet.
How do you get people to be in the front? It seems like
especially running at things, right?
Yeah, like so
I'm
he's
always
talking about
like, yeah,
Revolutionary
I'm real
War.
fast, but that guy's a little slower. I'm going to stick behind him.
Taylor's talking about the Revolutionary War, and he's right. But back up a little more. Now we have short swords and shields, or spears, or something like that. Who wants to be in the front of this collision? Who?
Or like
And-
up a
and that's
steam
where-
ladder onto a fucking like fortress. You kidding me? I'm going like 10th.
I think that the answer to that question is why like
when there were instances of professional armies versus like the come on everybody get together we gotta fight armies. Like it was so obvious. Like I think there was a lot of pub stomping back in the day when the Spartans, or specifically, or like the Romans, like came on the scene like later on. Like when you had well organized armies that were trained, like you know, there's that say what you want about 300, but one of the cooler scenes is like when Leonidas is asking the Athenian or whoever, like his soldiers, like they brought so many, like, what is your profession? I'm a potter. And it's just like, what about you? Sculptor. And like, Spartans, what is your profession? And they just go, Haru, Haru, Haru.
Dude, that scene is so fucking cool.
And then with his fucking Scottish accent, he's like,
it's not the coolest scene.
I brought more soldiers than you did. And it's just like,
yeah, literally like Sean Connery. I brought more soldiers than you did.
It's not the coolest scene in that movie.
In that moment,
they're establishing the bond between Leonidas and his wife, and because later his wife is gonna have to be anyway. He's fucking her, but from behind, and I was just like, "Oh, this is a better marriage than a regular one." Like, I don't.
He was absolutely pillaging that pussy.
I just felt like they did a cinematic greatness by showing him taking her in like 3 positions in a session. It wasn't lame. They were made for each other.
It's a damn good movie. It's a damn good movie. I'm going to tell
you. It's
a
great
now.
movie, dude. The scene, like, I remember this is probably on 4chan, like 14 years ago when I read it, but they were like, you know, the way that like it accelerates between levels of difficulty for the Spartan soldiers.
Yeah,
it's literally like a video game.
Yeah.
It really is like, it's like, oh, they have to overtake the charging rhino class right now. Okay, what are they going to do there? Oh, they have to overtake the elephant class. What are they going to do there? Like, it was great.
Yeah, that's what it is. They keep coming with bigger and bigger waves, but it's like full of one-liners and cool moments and like the makeup and the effects and the CGI, like whatever they're doing with that whole background.
The makeup gave Leonidas a 6-pack.
Yeah,
the makeup.
Fuck yeah, spray that bitch on. You can't expect Gerard Butler.
And you know,
I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, this guy turned himself in from dad bod to Spartan soldier.
All right, first of all, he did bulk up pretty good. Like he gained.
He was
looked
absolutely
at him more
jacked
recent
during 300.
Look at him more critically again, and you will see that he had painted on muscles.
I saw the painted on muscles. I know. I saw it fairly recently.
But all the other guys,
some of those other guys,
all the other guys were shredded. They were.
It depends on how big a role they had. like
the smaller the role, the more jacked they were.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
As opposed to talking.
The bigger the.
Come on. Well, come on now.
He looks really good in
Get this fucking propaganda off the screen. Get this out of
here. He looked a little worse than some of the other scenes are in my memory. I feel like I was disproven right there. But the bigger actors were chosen for their ability to act. The smaller the role, though, they got to be fitness models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, the second one really blew though. The sequel, I was excited. I was like,
the sequel was horrible.
Yeah,
there's a sequel.
Yeah, 302 or whatever the fuck it was called.
301. We're doing it again.
It was genuinely very bad. Yeah,
I liked it a little more than you, but yeah,
I like the sex scene with Eva Green, another doggy style scene. I'm sure Woody appreciated. He's a big fan.
You got to do it.
Eva Green might be the most beautiful woman who's ever lived. I'm a big fan of her.
Who is that?
She's an actress. She does a lot of nude scenes. Look up Eva Green. The movie is called The Dreamers. If you want to see her vagina.
Oh, 2003. They also have I haven't seen Casino Royale either, but she's in that.
Yeah, that might be my. That's not Prime Eva Green. Prime Eva Green is The Dream. I would guess you've seen The Last King of Scotland.
Yes, I have. Yeah,
that guy is one of the most fascinating African warlords that there ever was. Maybe the most fascinating.
Can I please read out his full title?
Please, it's so good.
I hope it rivals Daenerys.
Oh, let me see. Where's his title?
Starting forward for the Lakers, Daenerys Michaels. Daenerys from Game of Thrones. I'll never stop getting you with that one.
Oh, here it is.
What's her name? It's not
Daenerys. Right. Idi Amin, His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, DSO, MC, CBE, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas, and conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular. That's his full title.
That was
and also he was the uncrowned King of Scotland. Which
thank you, the last King of Scotland.
Which no, he's fucking not.
You don't recognize his authority? He has
I think I heard MC in there. Can this person rap?
No, what is an MC? Oh, military cross from the British Armed Forces, which he never got. He never got that. He just made that up. He has none of these awards. But like,
if you've never seen his movie, if you've never seen his movie, very good. Forrest Whitaker plays him.
I like Forrest Whitaker.
James McAvoy is like his foil. He's like the maybe British reporter who's like there, like do a journalist type thing with him. Becomes his like pal, like you will come with me and I will torture people. It's like that sort of movie. It's really good. I wanted to know how he died recently, so I did some research, and I hope it was right. But he kind of died in exile in a Middle Eastern country, I think. But to the end, he was like, "Just let them know if they want me to come back, I'm down." And Scotland too. If they need me to come in and fill in as king, also down for that. Like he was just so delusional all the way to the end.
What made him think he was the King of Scotland?
He was a fucking madman. Like he was just fucking insane.
Why did he pick Scotland?
He had lived in Scotland for some amount of time, and he really became enamored with the culture. And I don't remember how he made that leap to like thinking that he had some claim over the Scottish crown, but it might have had something to do with him considering himself a king in general. And it's like, hey, I'm a king. You need one?
Well, there's no current King of Scotland, so
yeah. Those redcoats have been giving you a hard time.
I'm just saying, I love it when Americans talk about this because they've no idea how sensitive a fucking subject that
I
is.
do. I heard you talking about the black and tans earlier.
oh yeah. Basically, there's certain places in Scotland where if you sing that song, you will get stabbed.
We pretend that didn't happen here.
Is there a king in Scotland or not? How are there two sides to this?
God, I need to go into history going back to like the 1700s. But basically, there was a thing called the Jacobite Rebellion. We had a king, but the king was Catholic. The English didn't like that because they were all Protestants. So they brought over William the Orange, which is why, remember how I mentioned about the Orange Walk earlier? Like basically that was the Protestants doing their little march where they talk about how much they hate Catholics and, and stuff like that. So basically, William of Orange came over, deposed the king. He fled up north. There was a little bit of a war. He then ended up fleeing to France. Blah blah blah. So basically, the lineage of kings like completely changed, right? And then King James had to flee over to France, where he did marry into nobility. Blah blah blah. So basically, going down his family tree, the current true heir of the Scottish throne, the true actual lineage. What's that little tiny country, Liechtenstein? It's like a prince of Liechtenstein, no. and the problem is everyone in Scotland like sees his picture and goes, he looks weak. He looks like a little silly boy. Like, I would never follow him. So, we're going to shove the king into a fucking locker.
What's that thing where you guys have that feat where you pick up those stones? You know what I'm talking about? The heavy stones.
Yes, the stone lift.
It was the one the mountain did, the Husavell stones, but I think that's Iceland.
I thought there was a Scottish one.
Caber tossing. We do the caber tossing.
Yeah,
that's the big hole where we basically throw a whole fucking tree, and it's really fucking hard. It's really hard because the point is to get it to fucking flip over.
And have you done it before?
I did it once. I think I did it about like 3 times. I managed to get like 2 out of the 3 throws and get it to go over. But fucking hell, you're lifting up a whole tree, like essentially, like, and then you need to fucking use physics to fucking flip it over. It's really hard, but it's fun. It's good. Like we still.
They're called the Denny stones. The Denny stones.
The Denny stones. The Denny. Denny means do not.
It must mean don't try to lift this.
Don't try, Denny pal. Denny try and lift these.
Didn't he try and lift these? Probably started as a joke. Scottish people are pretty funny.
Oh, Denny Steens, 2 giant granite boulders located outside the old Potash Hotel. Is this some like old challenge or something I've not actually heard?
I think it might be like a Paul Bunyan type thing. Now, after I read it a little bit more, like I think that someone supposedly carried those stones. It sounds like one of those.
Donald's father, Robert Denny, according to Donald's own account, back from like 1860. That was when apparently the stones have only ever been carried by 7 men.
Oh.
Yeah, and
you need one of those
Denny
men.
Was the first. Yeah.
What I was getting at is if like a man like that was over in Liechtenstein, I think there'd be a bigger call to like get him back home. Put him.
There definitely would. But it's just like
if you saw him like lifting those stones like easily and then tearing into some haggis drunkenly.
Well, now he's in. He's in.
Like there's a list to his like walk the whole way to the stones, and then he does it, and then you're just like. And he asks to come back. I feel like you guys can make that happen. Have like a populist movement.
Is the Liechtenstein guy is he an only child? Doesn't have like a brother? You could like a younger brother, bit of a beefcake, nothing like that.
No idea. It's just I know that he's like the lineage, but I looked at him. He looks like a fucking accountant.
Well, you got to skip that guy. But I do like that the Scottish people are like, we'll try again in a few years, in a few generations. Maybe he'll marry a big Icelandic broad.